Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet. I hope everybody is enjoying the wonderful music which was created by other people and then taken by me shamelessly and turned into a wonderful beat, which it sounds fantastic. Everybody loves it. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen of
Yeah,
the world, unite.
that confirms what I've always been saying, namely that atheism is parasitic. It has nothing of its own. It like sucks the blood out of everything else.
Literally,
Just like
yes.
you did with that song.
Yeah, that's what I do at night too. I suck blood. David and Robert, how are you doing?
Good evening. Very well, thank you. How are you, AP?
Good. Thank you. David doesn't seem to bother to even respond to my
David's busy.
I'm editing a video, which we might even watch before the end of this.
We might.
That's funny.
It's funny because I only have like probably 5 to 6 minutes of uninterrupted editing, but it will probably take an hour because AP is going to keep interrupting me every 5 seconds.
Yeah. So today we want to talk about how my unmatched perspicacity and my sheer indefatigability.
Wow.
The entire day I have this stupid phrase from Andrew Tate, which he stole from his father, I think.
Did you see how I fixed the quote? Did you see how I fixed the quote at the end?
Yes, I did. I just saw that.
That is way better like that, isn't it? It's like perfect.
Yeah. So for those who are not aware, Andrew Tate has this quote that he keeps posting here and there, and it's a very corny one. It's like using these words that nobody uses completely unnecessarily. It says like my unmatched perspicacity coupled with my sheer indefatigability makes me a feared enemy in all something like
in any realm of human endeavor.
In any realm of human endeavor. Oh yeah.
What's funny is like, he was saying that before he signed up with the Dawa gangs, but they do the same thing where if they use a big word like ultra crepidarian or something like that, like they come across as smart.
Yeah.
And
utilitarian.
like you put, Andrew Tate.
Utilitarian.
Yeah, utilitarian. You've got Andrew Tate using these words just because his dad, who was a legitimate genius with narcissistic personality disorder. But yeah, they love to, if you use the big one, the conglomeration of the hypotenuse will differentiate the parallelogram. Anytime the consanguinity doesn't emulate the ordinary effervescence, AP. See how smart I sounded with all those multi-syllable words there? Now you have to admit I'm right because I have a thesaurus.
That's how it works. All right. What happened to my screen? What is happening here? This is funny. So, for those who have missed it, last week, what happened is that... Was that last week? That was last week, right? Yeah, last week.
It was last week.
There was on Thursday...
Seems like a long time ago.
Yes, an episode of the Patrick Bet David podcast, the PBD podcast, where Robert and Brother Rashid, who was with us on this channel last week and on the weekend as well, they went on there to discuss Islam and building bridges with two very friendly Muslim debaters who were there also just to build bridges, namely Daniel Haqiqatjou and Jake the Muslim metaphysician. The problem is that the bridges that Robert and Brother Rashid and Patrick Bet David wanted to build were quite different from the bridges that Daniel Haqiqatjou and Jake the Muslim metaphysician wanted to build. I think they wanted to build bridges of bodies, as it looked, because they were the ones who openly said on that show, while over 13,000 people were watching, that they believe apostates should be executed and blasphemers should be executed and religious wars should be held and slaves should be taken and all of that. And as we were hearing that, the host of the show, Patrick Bet David, was still just worried about, okay, interesting, but let's see what we can find. Let's see how we can find common ground. And how about Dylan Mulvaney? And it was
Isn't that funny? I mean, that should have instantly been whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on here, folks. Are you saying you actually wait? Is one side saying you actually want to murder the other side? Yeah, and
They said it.
yeah, and then and then and then in addition to that, they were saying, but to be fair, their side should want to kill us too. Their side should want to kill us. We should all want to kill each other.
That's bridges for you.
That should have been like, whoa, all you viewers, I apologize. This is live. This should have been shut down, but I'm sorry, we're canceling this live stream early because one side wants to kill the other side, and we need to start over with a completely different goal apart from building bridges because these guys just burned them to the ground.
Yeah, with all due respect, I saw Patrick Bet-David twice so far. Okay, maybe 3 times. One was the episode with Andrew Tate. One was this one now, and one was something where he talked to Konstantin Kisin from Trigonometry.
I saw part of his discussion with I saw like 30 to 40 minutes of his discussion with Sam. Wait, no, that wasn't Sam. That was Trigonometry too. Okay, never mind. Yeah, I saw the same. Yeah. I think I've seen the same ones that you've seen.
Yes, and in all of them, in all 3 of them, he just he's extremely disappointing and has very strange standards. It looks like, and in this case, it was not very much different. But Robert, what do you want to?
Yeah, I think that unfortunately, Patrick Bet-David, he's a nice guy, and he was clearly trying to be. I think he was actually pretty much even-handed during this show. The thing is, as you have noted, to be even-handed when 2 guys say, yes, we want to kill the other 2 guys, it's kind of wild that we just went on and had this discussion, and he keeps wanting to figure out where we have common ground. I thought that, with all due respect to Patrick Bet-David, that, and I wrote this actually in a tweet after the show, and there were a lot of reasons for this that actually, this is, there are a lot of things that I'm thinking about that are all coming in at once. So pardon me for keeping on stopping, but I have to note that the narrative that Daniel Haqiqatjou and what's the other guy, Jake, the metaphysician, they've constructed this completely fictional narrative of what exactly happened on this show. And actually part of it includes my criticism of Patrick Bet-David after the show, where I was saying, you're being naive about these Muslims, mm-hmm. and they're being very sweet to you, and Eddie from the Dean show was there. He wasn't on the show, but he was there, and they did an episode of the Dean show, he and Patrick, after this show that we did with Daniel Haqiqatjou. And the thing about it is that it seemed to me that he's being played by these guys. They know very sophisticated ways to manipulate people.
That's pretty much every podcast they go on, right? There's a goal, yeah. Right? The goal is to use that person's platform to reach his followers for dawah purposes to people who are completely ignorant of the issues and don't know any better. Yeah. And so that's every situation. But yeah, AP, what you just mentioned with the Tate interview, it's very similar in the sense of we're watching him interview Tate and we know the background and stuff, and we're going, wait, how are you moving on after he just said that? How are you not stopping right here and pushing a little harder on this issue, because that's a really big thing that just happened and you're just moving right along here. So yeah, I mean, I kind of get it. If you have guests on, you don't want to be blasting away at them, because then who's going to want to join you for discussion. So there is a certain level. Well, but I mean, when one side is saying, yes, we want to, if we get our way, we kill the other side. That should be like, guys, okay, I wanted to talk about Dylan Mulvaney and all these other things that we could unite on, but I give up. I give up on that. Shut that down. Let's go ahead and get back to this issue.
Well, it should also be noted, you guys were talking about which episodes of Patrick Bet-David you had seen, and I had actually never heard of him until about a week before, as it happened, he invited me on the show. And about a week before that, I had come across by chance the video of him when he was interviewing Anthony Weiner. And he was being very tough with Anthony Weiner and talking about the Clinton body count and all the people who've died suspiciously, who were involved with the Clintons or had dirt on the Clintons and so on. And kept on pressing Anthony Weiner about this. And Anthony Weiner was getting very agitated about it. And I thought, this is somebody who's going to be tough in trying to get to the truth. That's one of the reasons why I agreed to go on. But as it turned out, I think it went very well, but I didn't really even have to show up. I could have saved myself the trip because Haqiqatjou and Jake, the metaphysician, they have just made it all up as to what exactly went on this show. And as long as they're going to lie about it, they didn't actually even need me there at all. They could have just held up a picture and said that I said this and that, because what they're saying I said has nothing to do with the actual reality. So I would like to ask people to actually watch the show rather than just go by what Daniel Haqiqatjou says happened there.
There's also a thing, people like Patrick Bet-David, commentators like him on his side are easily, it looks like, with all due respect to him, this is just my observation, are easily manipulated and easily swayed by what their audience or what their own fan base says, what they tell them, and especially that coupled with how nice those people who say those things are to him. And we just pointed out, Muslims often have this whole approach where if somebody seems to have an initial respectful approach to Islam, then they will just try to shower him with love, and they do that, and they did that here in this case too. And what somebody like that gets from that is, oh, look at this, these guys are so passionate, they are so interesting, and it looks like they are trying to communicate. Let's see what they want to say. And then they treat their own, like you guys, as they hold you to higher standards, whereas from the Muslim side, they don't expect very much. They just perceive any kind of niceness from them as something fantastic. And it was also clearly visible on that show, during that show, where I don't know, despite them saying some really horrible, really messed up things, despite them not answering most of what you guys said,
Mm-hmm.
he still praises them as being I don't know, having good standards, being very prepared, and I'm just thinking, what are you talking about, man? Like, you guys brought up so many points that got completely ignored. You guys brought up the golden rule several times. They completely ignored it when it came up and wanted to go to the Old Testament again.
Rashid, I think Rashid counted. I think I saw in a tweet that he had counted and said, "Hey, I said 25 things about Muhammad. They never responded to at all."
What he should have done, an honest person, if Patrick Bet-David was an honest person, consistent with his standards, what he should have done in that case is, as soon as these people say, yes, you should be killed, yes, you should be executed, not only apostates but also blasphemers should be executed, as soon as they said that, Patrick Bet-David should have said, stop, one moment. I invited you guys here because I thought we can build bridges, but you guys believe that the others should be killed. So why are you here? Are you really here because you want to build bridges? Are you going to let go of these ideas? Is there any chance for you guys to let go of the idea that these guys should die? He would then quickly find out that there is no chance. There is no chance. So he should have then realized that he made a mistake, but he still doesn't understand it. It is just... And I'm sorry, but I don't have any other explanation to that except that he plays to a fan base, to loyalty, to whatever people say. And Jordan Peterson found that out recently, the wrong way, or I could say the right way. They were very nice to him as long as he seemed interested, and as soon as after his conversations with Mohammed Hijab, came out and said, talked about Islam and said something about how it's driven by misogynist, violent, intolerant mullahs, and said, "I don't buy you, Allah." Then they
Yeah.
went mad.
Yeah, he
And
goes, yeah, he described it and he goes, how about no?
how about no? I don't buy
don't buy
Allah.
your Allah. And then all of a sudden they don't like him anymore.
Yeah, it takes only it takes just one simple acknowledgement of what is actually going on from the host. That would be
Mhm.
Patrick Bet-David, and they would immediately turn around and start attacking and shaming that person. Which
I think
reminds me,
it's part of a larger. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead. I was going to connect something else, but go ahead.
Well, AP, I think it's part of a larger trend, and so it's important that we discuss this because Patrick Bet-David, in his obviously being played or being vulnerable to being played by Eddie, by Muhammad Hijab, who he praised on the program. He's clearly, he needs to watch your video about Muhammad Hijab. He thinks he's some kind of a serious thinker. And he's thoroughly charmed by Eddie. You should have seen how delighted he was when Eddie walked into the studio right before the show started. And then as I said, they did the Dean show after. And it's all one part of the same general tendency that you have among some people on the right who are disgusted, quite rightly, with the LGBTQ aggressiveness, with the drag queens in primary schools, with the trans madness, with all the craziness that has inundated the culture in the last few years. And they see the Muslims standing against that, while so many churches are like draping the gay flag on the outside of the church and things like that. And so they're like Andrew Tate, and they're getting into Islam without having any idea what it's really about and how dangerous the game they're playing really is. But I saw Nick Fuentes, the famous
Nazi.
the Nazi, and he was on some show with some Muslims. I wish I had taken note of who they were. You guys would probably know who they were, but he's praising Islam for various things in standing up to this madness. I think Patrick Bet-David thinks the same way. Andrew Tate thinks the same way. It's something that they're going to regret, certainly, because eventually they're going to learn about the aspects of Islam that cut against them as well as they cut against everybody else. But right now, it's in the middle of this honeymoon stage, and they're approaching it completely uncritically.
I was going to point out something about the Nick Fuentes issue, but I just forgot it. Very interesting. David, you sounded like you wanted to say something.
I didn't want to say anything. I'm just marveling that you can't go 2 seconds without forgetting what you want to talk about.
That's my usually.
So you just mentioned LGBT or rainbow, whatever you said.
Same thing. You know the deal.
Yes, which brought me back to what Daniel Haqiqatjou posted on X, formerly known as Twitter, where he made a very interesting tweet, which shows that he's either very stupid and doesn't understand some very basic thoughts, or he's extremely dishonest, blatantly dishonest, and nobody even cares. Now, here was a post from you where you report, Robert, that Erdogan is enraged over homosexual flag at UN, but it was a rainbow representing UN goals. So your article just points out that Erdogan gets this completely wrong. And
notice where it says underneath, Erdogan's rage is another indication of the breakdown of the leftist Islamic alliance.
Yeah.
And so that's what the post was about. But Haqiqatjou, because he's a one-trick pony, and everybody who opposes him is a secular liberal, he's trying to portray me as a secular liberal, and he doesn't care how much he lies to do it, because he's Muhammad said war is deceit, and so lying is fine, and so Haqiqatjou is fine with lying, so he lies right here.
And this is what he tweets in response. This slime ball sat in front of us and Patrick Bet-David, of course, also to tag him and,
It's
side
all
with him.
just
It's
slander. Yeah.
strategy. And with a straight face, claim to be against LGBT ideology. In reality, he obsessively attacks Muslims for not being pro-LGBT enough. What a two-faced rat. Now,
There-
there is so much
there's
here
not,
in those
yeah,
tweets.
there's not one word there. There's not one word there saying they should be pro LGBTQ. It's, hey, how are you guys on the same side, supposedly in the West? How are you guys supposedly allies against other groups when one side clearly hates the other side? It's the same thing as in the debate, right? One side wants to kill the other side. How are you talking about building bridges? In other words, you got the PBD podcast, and it's to build bridges between these two groups, but one side wants to kill the other group. And so Robert and Rashid, they have to shut that down. Wait, you're talking about building bridges. They want to kill us. What? They
Yep.
want to kill you? Yep. Actually, we want to kill them. That's actually, they acknowledge it. And you're pointing out, wait a minute, the left has built its bridge with Islam. How did that happen? How did that happen when
Yep.
one side wants to kill the other side?
Yeah.
It's the same. They want one side wants to kill, eventually get an Islamic State and execute the other side. How did you guys form that bridge?
Mhm.
What's
so it's-
important here is also it's Daniel Haqiqatjou specifically here. Like, I mean, you can clearly see if you are a supporter of Daniel Haqiqatjou, if you think he's generally right compared to Robert Spencer, please tell me here. Please tell me where in the world did Robert Spencer in this post or anywhere else criticize Muslims or attack Muslims for not being pro-LGBT? Tell me where exactly in this post it is even implied that it is a bad thing of Erdogan to be enraged at the homosexual flag, which he, by the way, mistook because it was just a regular rainbow representing UN goals. I mean, even the post itself, when you go into it, points that out specifically. There is nothing from Robert's part here which either supports the LGBT flag or criticizes Muslims for not doing so. And yet we have Daniel here acting as if that is what is happening, and also then calling Robert a slime ball and a two-faced rat, and taking advantage of this situation to side with Patrick Bet-David. Now, I just see two choices here, two options. Daniel Haqiqatjou is either extremely dishonest and a liar, or he is incredibly stupid and doesn't understand simple things he reads. Which one is it?
Can I take both?
Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
there is a problem. I mean, this is the criticism against Daniel Haqiqatjou. He can go to the Catholic Encyclopedia where it says, no one knows how old Mary was because we have no reliable source on her age. And he can walk away from that and go, yep, the Catholic Encyclopedia says Mary was 12 years old. And IP, Inspiring Philosophy, in his debate, pointed out that Daniel's been citing these sources for years, and either he's deliberately misrepresenting them, or he doesn't understand them, or he just didn't read them, and he just read the abstract and completely misunderstood them. Because IP is pointing out, hey, if you look at what this actually says, this is actually horribly opposed to everything Daniel is saying here. And so he does just seem insanely sloppy. But I would agree, it's probably a combination of not really understanding them and being completely willing to deceive people. There is one important additional little side issue here as far as being pro LGBTQ or something like that. Keep in mind, from the perspective of someone like Daniel, if you are not in favor of just going around executing everyone, then you're actually like supporting and defending them, right? Like when Inspiring Philosophy said that he is not in favor of, putting in prison or lashing or something like that young people who have sex or something like that. Daniel then, I didn't see it. I heard that he said IP is actually supporting, sex with kids or child marriage or something like that. It's completely misrepresenting him, because in Daniel's mind, if you are not for slaughtering all these people, then you're totally fine and cannot possibly disagree with anything. And what he misses, of course, is you can, of course, disagree with people on all kinds of things, right? You can say, hey, you know, that drag queen story out, that stuff's got to go. That stuff's got to go, and still not believe that LGBTQ people should be massacred in the name of Allah, right?
Well,
Yes,
if you don't agree with them, why don't you want to kill them?
You see, you have to kill everyone. Notice, I mean, it is amazing if you listen to him. I've had his fans just constantly troll me anytime I mention something about some weird story of someone doing something real creepy on the left, and they'll say, "Oh, but David, you said everything they do was fun." Like, what? Where did I say that? Oh, you said, and I'll have a discussion with them, and they pretty much invariably actually believe that if you do not execute them all, then you agree. If you do not want someone executed, then you agree with the person on everything. It's like built into their minds.
Yeah.
The thing about this is it's interesting to note that he says, I obsessively attack Muslims. So he ought to be able to find plenty of examples of this. And so I would challenge Daniel Haqiqatjou to produce even one statement. I got 80,000 posts at Jihad Watch. I got 27 books published. Let Daniel Haqiqatjou find even one statement in favor of the LGBTQ agenda. Now, David, your point's well taken. If he means I don't want people murdered because I don't believe in Sharia, then yeah, I have reported many times about homosexuals being killed in Muslim countries under Sharia, and I'm against that, and I'm proud of that. But that is not the same thing as supporting the LGBTQ agenda, and the inability or unwillingness to make this kind of basic distinction is one of the reasons why Daniel Haqiqatjou is such a flawed thinker and simply not honest in terms of his in any of his debates. And it's interesting, you know, that I watched some of them in the lead up to the PBD show, and every last one of the people he's debating says, you're lying, you're not being honest.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's a deep character flaw that he's got that comes from Islam, because it comes from the approval of lying that's in Islam. And the fictional narrative about this discussion, which was not even a debate at all, but the fictional narrative about this show over the last week is another indication of that. You know, he's
liar. You're a liar.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And he's claiming, you know, I have 100 guys a day coming in and saying, you called the Bible a fable, which never happened. People saying, you know, you're a liberal who's pro LGBTQ, which never happened. And all these things, they cannot deal with what actually happened, because what actually happened was that Daniel Haqiqatjou and Jake were exposed as supporting death for apostates, supporting the Taliban, and all sorts of other things that they would no doubt rather had stayed concealed. Now, Daniel, you got to grant him that he is more open about a lot of these things than a lot of the other Islamic apologists, but that just entangles him in his own hypocrisy that he hasn't gone to live in a Sharia state.
Alhamdulillah. Let's have a look at this one here. I think it contains some harsh language. So for those who are sitting there with their kids for some reason, what in the world are you doing anyway?
Look, we all understand. We all understand that we're on an atheist show right now.
Yeah,
and therefore there is a lack of morality. But yeah,
and if anything goes, anything could happen.
On 9-year-olds dating.
Wait.
On 9-year-olds dating.
What is this cut this way? He's okay. Yeah, whatever.
What counts as dating? What if a 9-year-old wants to have sex with another 9-year-old boy? Do we have laws? Should we have laws that prevent that?
This isn't about.
Should we? Oh, now it's not about 9-year-olds. Okay.
I'm sorry. Do I get to answer your question?
Yes, please answer.
Are you going to ask it and answer?
Are you in favor of laws that would ban a 9-year-old girl from sleeping with a 9-year-old boy? Yes or no?
We don't have
yes
law.
Or no?
Okay, one more time, since you're going to do the yes or no thing. Like one more time with the question. Am I in favor of laws that would ban that? No.
Okay, so you don't have a problem with 9-year-olds having sex?
That's a lie, and you are the most dishonest person I've ever engaged
There
with.
you go.
Just forced me to answer yes or no to a question about whether or not I would advocate for a law. And then when I said that I would not advocate for the law, you suggested I don't have a problem with it. I have massive problems with it. You're the one that doesn't have a problem with it.
Apparently
which is
not
why
enough
this
to
is the
suggest
only
legislation.
debate we are ever going to do. And I don't care if you lie about my views. Don't fuck kids.
Wow.
I love this guy.
Tell us how you really feel, Matt.
But he's absolutely right. That's
Yeah.
what Daniel Haqiqatjou always does.
Yes.
Lies about the other side, sets up a straw man, and then accuses you of setting up a straw man. I mean, he's desperately dishonest.
Think about what he just said. It's similar to what we just talked about. If you are not in favor of a law being established against, therefore you think there's nothing wrong here, right? Like, so notice, do I think that there should be a law against Daniel lying? No, I don't.
Yes,
I don't think,
yes,
no,
there
I
should be.
yeah. So notice, I don't think that there should be a law.
What?
But
That means you support him lying.
Do I think it's okay? No, it's evil. That's pure evil to be constantly lie about everything, to dupe people into following your God. So no, I don't know. But notice, if he just heard me and said, "Oh, you don't believe there should be a law against me saying this, therefore you're saying it's fine," it's absolutely insane.
Don't try to talk your way out of this now, David. You just said there should not be a law against Daniel Haqiqatjou lying. That means you support the lies that he tells.
Do you support the lies he tells? Yes or no?
Now you're doing Dawa, David. Now you're on the side of Dawa.
That's basically how it works. That's how he works. And now there is this funny thing here that happened during this whole discussion, during this whole episode, where they accused
this is where I
guys.
criticized Patrick Bet David for just what we were discussing tonight.
Yeah, so they accuse Robert Spencer and Brother Rashid of being not real Christians, of being liberal Christians or secular humanists or whatever, or even atheists, whatever you want to call it, simply because these two gentlemen don't believe that you should be going around fighting, taking slaves, and killing apostates and blasphemers. They think they are just against this stuff because they are not real Christians. They are liberal, secular humanists, and whatever you want to call it. And that is basically their main talking point right now since that debate. But here in this tweet, he says something really interesting. He says, Muslims would be very happy if Patrick Bet David became Muslim, and we would welcome him with open arms. But if he doesn't, we are still happy to ally with him and support him and other real Christians who care about God, family, community, and other real values. So this is very strange, isn't it? He dismissed you guys as real Christians and basically argued that you are fake Christians and liberals and whatever it is because you are against those punishments, which they are for. Because if you were real Christians, you would support that. But now he is here calling Patrick Bet David a real Christian as opposed to a fake Christian. Why exactly? Does Patrick Bet David support the death penalty for apostasy? The death penalty for blasphemy? Does he think we should wage religious wars? Does he think we should go around and take slaves, including sex slaves, and impose all kinds of insane laws upon each other? Is that really the case? I doubt it.
Yeah, very much not. It's just that Daniel Haqiqatjou knows that Patrick Bet David is talking to all these Muslims and that he seems to be impressed by Islam. He likes the idea of Islam standing up to the immorality of our age, and so he's just flattering him in order to try to win him over. But another fundamental dishonesty of Daniel Haqiqatjou and what's the other guy's name? I always forget. Jake Brancatella.
Yeah, Jake Brancatella.
Yeah, Jake Brancatella. The fundamental dishonesty that they have, it shows that they don't have actually any knowledge of Christianity at all. And then they set themselves up as knowing all about Christianity and being able to tell who's a real Christian and who isn't. and the fundamental misunderstanding that they have is about the role of the Old Testament and Old Testament law. And it's not liberal Christianity or secularized modern Christianity to say that the Old Testament laws don't apply in Christianity. That is basic Christianity.
That is all over the New Testament, and not only is it in the New Testament, it was prophesied in the Old Testament. What?
David, why are you suddenly so loud? What?
Am I loud?
You are suddenly extremely loud.
It's the forcefulness of his truth.
I don't control my audio here, man.
You're suddenly incredibly loud. I don't know why. But yeah, try again. Let's try again. Maybe it was just
check. How was that?
That's fine. You're fine.
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay. Oh yeah. So I was just saying that not only is it all over the New Testament. Hey guys, you were under a new covenant. It's prophesied in the Old Testament. Jeremiah 31. It's prophesied a new covenant is coming, guys. There's a new covenant coming. But yeah, if you listen to what these guys, if you listen to their position is it's like when they say, but once you get political power, then you're supposed to start killing people, right? Oh, why didn't Jesus' followers for 3 centuries shed a drop of blood anywhere? It's because they were waiting till they had political power. We've talked about this in a previous live stream that you don't need political power to get violence, right? I mean, to get violent. Jihadis in the US and the UK and Canada and basically around the world who don't have political authority to go around killing people have nevertheless been going around killing people a lot. We see even during the time of the apostles, Stephen was stoned to death by people who had no political authority. They just got really, really ticked off and they tried to stone him to death. The apostle Paul was stoned, but he survived it. But that was by people who had no authority, no political authority to do that, to carry out that penalty. They did it anyway. Why? They got really ticked off. So for 3 centuries, Christians didn't kill anybody. It wasn't until the Roman Empire adopted Christianity that's when you start getting violence, because they already had a Roman Empire kind of way of doing things. And when we asked Daniel about this, why didn't they kill anyone for 3 centuries? Because they were waiting till they had political power. And so you ask him about this, like what command of, Jesus did, when Jesus talking about laying down your weapons and loving your enemies and so on, it wasn't, hey, up until you get political power, then slaughter everyone. So, but their actual position, this is their position. You can ask Jake and Daniel if this is their position. Their position is the teachings of Jesus as part of the covenant that you are under are only in effect until you get political power, and then you go then you are under the Old Testament, and you have to obey laws about killing people, who do things. And it's just like, I've never heard a single Christian ever who held that position, and they are saying, no, we get to define Christianity, and this is what Christianity is, and if you disagree with it, then you're a liberal Christian.
And that was one of the fundamental exchanges on this show was when Jake was trying to trap me about the killing people passages in the Old Testament, and I'm trying to explain. I wrote on Jihad Watch the next day. It was like trying to explain particle physics to a 2nd grader, because as a Muslim, he reads the Quran and it's all just positive commands. But the Bible is not full of all positive commands. There are a lot of literary forms in it. There are a lot of different kinds of writing in it. And there's a lot of discussion about the nature of these passages. But it seemed like even Patrick Bet-David thought that if you start to say you got to set aside the Old Testament law and it doesn't apply anymore, then you're being a liberal Christian, which betrays a massive misunderstanding of basic Christianity.
It looks like Patrick Bet-David he's not really familiar with the subject, right? And he doesn't really deeply understand the Christian way of thinking or the Muslim way of thinking. So it's kind of funny of him to sit there and to then kind of try to judge who did a good job on it and who did not. I mean, he is the one who insisted that Christians are so divided and Muslims are so united, right? Which is completely, which is an insane thing to say.
And like I said, I think the show went great.
I loved it.
Was fine, and he was pretty even-handed. but his sympathies were clear.
Yeah.
And that's what I was addressing when I tweeted that. But here again, these guys are such big liars, and they've been running with that as if it's some sort of, as if I was saying, oh, I lost the debate and it's Patrick Bet-David's fault. There was no debate. There was no loss. It's just that Patrick Bet-David, I think, is being played by these guys, and he doesn't realize what's happened.
And by the way, notice the people who keep falling for this. You guys pointed out that he doesn't seem to know a whole lot about Christianity. If he was sympathetic towards anything they were saying, I mean, it's actually moronic for them to be defining Christianity in this way.
Mhm.
If you wanted to ask, hey, what's the relationship between the New Testament and the Old Testament? Something. What are you laughing at, man?
You were suddenly loud again, and people are making fun of it and saying David
What is this?
triggered. I don't know.
You're not loud now. I don't know why.
No,
whenever
initially when you
we
start
talk about
talking, it's very loud. And we
Well,
can even
fix
hear
your
background
system, man.
noise.
Fix your system.
It's you, it's not me.
No, my mic is set at maximum from the get-go. So
it's
that is
because
in
it's
your
an
system.
atheistic system.
Yeah, bunch
Probably,
of
That's
atheists,
why.
liberal Christians. Yeah. So notice, like, the people who keep falling for this. Like, so again, if you wanted to say, hey guys, what's the relationship between New Covenant, Old Covenant, an Old Covenant tied to a specific piece of land after this series of miracles, and so, like, what's the connection between that and what Christians are commanded? Because you believe that it's all revelation. So what's going on there? That is a relevant discussion. But to act like, nope, this is part of the Old Covenant. You believe that this was revealed, therefore you are bound by that, or something like that. Or once you get political power, then you do that. Is insane and idiotic. And I've never met any knowledgeable person who thinks that at all. But their goal isn't to reach knowledgeable people. Their goal is to meet people who have no clue what they're talking about.
Indeed.
And
Well, they got a whole army of meatheads out there.
Yeah, but
that
notice
just
who keeps
repeating all these lies.
Notice who keeps falling for this, right? They get on these podcasts of people who don't know a lot about Christianity, don't know a lot about Islam. And because they don't know a lot about Christianity and they don't know a lot about Islam, they think, oh, we can work together on these things. And they start a couple of the details get filled in. They realize, oh, this isn't going to work. AP pointed out, it's the exact same thing with Jordan Peterson. He was thinking the exact same thing. So many people are having the same idea. Hey, we're worried about this group over here. Muslims could be our allies in this. Let's build some bridges here. And they start finding out, wait, you believe what? You believe what now? Oh my goodness, I thought that was a myth. I thought Islamophobes said that. Now I'm hearing it from you guys. You admit it? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's why the show was so good.
Yeah.
I think it was amazing because so obviously the Muslim side, no matter how the show goes, they will always come out and act like it was a great victory for Islam. The other side has been embarrassed. Islam is victorious now. The Muslims have shown what a wonderful religion Islam is. And hopefully all the viewers and the host and even the producers behind the scene will all convert to Islam because they will see the beauty of this. That's basically their reaction to every single thing whenever Islam appears. It doesn't even matter what is being said.
That's why I didn't even have to show up. My career's over now. I keep hearing this. My career's over. I think, well, when do I get a break then? Can I get a day off now that my career's over?
I mean,
it just keeps going.
But if you see, and they also made sure to flood the comment section of that live stream to give people the illusion that it was a complete Islamic victory. But if you now see clips emerging from that being posted on different channels, and you go into the comment section, the people who actually comment on the content of that podcast episode point out, yikes, these guys are clearly for executing people just because they left their religion. This is simply unacceptable. This is true Islam. We shouldn't have this here. And things like these. I mean, and this whole podcast episode made that possible. It made it possible for so many people around the world, for thousands of people. I don't even know, the stream probably has nearly 1 million views now. For all of these people to see the true face of Islam, for all of these people to clearly hear from Muslims that they believe apostates should be executed, that they believe blasphemers should be executed. And what a great service. What a great service.
Yep.
And I think Daniel should continue doing what he does.
Man, it's incredible. He talks about obsessive. He's done like 12 videos about how he won this debate. If he really won it, then why does he have to keep telling us?
Yeah, yeah,
People could just watch it and see. It's incredible. But the lies are so thick. Another one was Justin Martyr, the church father, where Jake was saying that he was against the Trinity, and there were, or at least not a Trinitarian, and there were so many. And he said no other church fathers before Nicaea were Trinitarians. This is just another plain lie. But how many people know this? You know, people, if they've ever heard of the Council of Nicaea at all, they've just heard about it through the what are those books? The Dan Brown books. They were very popular books a few years ago, and they had all these falsehoods about the Council of Nicaea, and people got
Da Vinci
all these
Code real
crazy
loud.
ideas. That's it, Da Vinci Code. Yes.
Did I get
And all
loud?
these- yeah, you
yes.
were
What
loud
is
there.
what is happening?
Oh, I realize every time it's only when I I muted myself, but when I unmute myself, suddenly it gets super loud because of your crap system.
Anyway,
Again, my mic is maxed out, so if it jumps up in volume, that is the perils of using StreamYard, my friend.
Just
Shame on
don't
you.
unmute yourself. That's a simple.
anyway, just to finish the point, he quoted something from Justin Martyr that I'd never heard before, where he said Justin Martyr's referring to a second God. And so I actually looked that up. Now, I don't want to say that there's nowhere that he could have said it. It may be that there's something that's not on the internet where Justin Martyr said this. I just did a search, actually several searches, but there was nothing. And I'm tending to think that Jake fabricated the quote, or it's somebody else speaking that he thought was Justin Martyr. But there's a whole raft of a long list of church fathers who were Trinitarians before the Council of Nicaea. Ignatius of Antioch, who I named on the show, Polycarp, Hippolytus of Rome, Gregory the Wonder Worker, many, many others. And the thing is, though, that he's dealing with a low information or no information audience. So he knows he can lie, and people won't have any idea that he's lying.
By the way, to address that specific topic, today, Inspiring Philosophy, Michael Jones and Jay Dyer came together and made a live stream in which I think both of them are very, very well informed on the issue, on the history of the Trinity and all of that, in which they analyzed and responded to Jake and his claims about the Trinity and about Christian beliefs, which, as an atheist, I think this is like completely boring. But if you want to, I'm just kidding. So they addressed this stuff. If you want to look at that aspect of it, I would suggest going over and checking that out. That was a very insightful thing to do. Plus, what's interesting is even when they want to talk about the Council of Nicaea and act as if the Trinity was only established later on, they are acting like the other ideas which existed aside from the Trinity were totally in alignment with Islamic belief, when in reality, if you study the history of early Christian beliefs, those ideas that contested the mainstream beliefs were not in alignment with Islamic thought either. It's the idea that Jesus is the Son of God in one way or another, and God, were almost entirely held by Christians. And I mean, he likes to mention Bart Ehrman, and some other Muslims do that too. And I actually sat down with Bart Ehrman and asked him that question, and he gave me the answer, plain and simple, that there was no significant Christian group or movement which rejected all of those beliefs together. They only had disagreements about the nature of Jesus, on Christology, on the relationship between the Father and the Son, and so on. So this Muslim attempt to kind of depict the Trinity and the belief in God and in Jesus as the Son of God, them trying to depict this as some later invention, which is a perversion or something like that, it completely falls flat. It is completely baseless. And they base all of that simply on their wonderful historical source, which is the Quran, which came into existence through oral revelations in 7th century Arabia by some
Or
guy,
later,
by some guy who was quite messed up.
or a committee.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. We will never know. We will
Yes.
never know. I'm checking this out right now, by the way. This says the podcast episode has 945,000 views so far in 1 week. So it's almost at 1 million. Lots of people are here and should probably see the part where these guys clearly say that the ex-Muslims and the critics should be executed. And they even posted a clip of this, which so far has 360,000 views. And it's directly titled, "Should I Be Killed? Former Muslim explains why he converted to Christianity." And the highlight is basically here.
They posted that? Hey, that's great.
Yeah, they posted this on Valuetainment, the other channel. And of course, here you don't see the comment section flooded with Muslims who are like, humiliated, emotional, and things like that. Here, people are actually talking about the content, and in this video, you can hear it right here. And maybe I didn't prepare this, but let's see. Of course, it's muted.
There should be no punishment for mocking and insulting a religion, attacking people's values. Is that coming from a Christian perspective? Is that coming from is that coming from the church tradition? Is that coming from the Bible? Because when we look at the Bible, we see in Leviticus, we see in Deuteronomy that blasphemers should be put to death. Even if you entice, the Bible says.
I have one issue with the entire podcast and how it went. I have one issue for which I will not blame you guys. A weakness for which you and Brother Rashid cannot be blamed, but rather it just shows how dishonest your opponents were once again. If you remember, both David and I were predicting that they will try to focus the discussion on what about Christianity, what about the Bible, what about this and that, explain morality, and so on. They will try to distract from the rulings of Islam as much as possible and try to turn it around and try to make it about an irrelevant issue, which is what the Bible says about these things, despite the fact that the discussion is clearly about building bridges, about what you guys believe and what they believe. So what they believe that you guys should be killed, you don't believe that they should be killed, and they want to bring the discussion to, but let's look at the Bible. You should be okay with us wanting you killed because you guys also should want us killed. And Daniel successfully led the discussion there through his sophistry and his dishonesty, as he so often does.
Yeah, well, it's true. And you're absolutely right. Rashid and I made many points that they just ignored and pressed on with their agenda of trying to attack Christianity and use these two quoque arguments that Christianity is just like Islam and has all these things, and you guys are just liberals for rejecting them. And the difficulty there is that once they ask you the question, what are you going to do? And I think back in hindsight, it's always good to it's always easy to think, well, I could have done this better, I could have said this, and there's no doubt that probably sometimes I should have said, you're getting off the point and we need to get back to this, and what about this sanctification of violence in Islam, and so on, and other things that I brought up. And so there you have, I think you have a valid point, and it's just, in part, it's the nature of the situation and the naivete also of Patrick Bet-David, once again, that he doesn't realize how they're deflecting and lets it happen instead of pressing them to say, you should answer these questions, and we're not going to go to your other questions until you answer them.
Yeah, so what I wanted to say is basically...
You're finished already! Look at me! Look at me! You know you're done!
not that. But anyway, let's look at this part here.
The unbelievers
Yeah,
and
so I'm-
so
Is someone talking? No.
on.
So, Robert,
Can we hear from Brother Rashid for one? Brother Rashid, go for it. What's on your mind?
Because this is concerns me. Do you believe I should be put to death?
I believe that the punishment for apostasy in a correct Islamic state is death. I believe that that's
So
the correct. Let me finish. Let me just respond,
Yeah.
sir. I believe that that is the correct punishment, which has been revealed by God, both in the Quran and the Bible. And for Robert to turn around,
I
and
asked
say,
you-
Let me finish.
You see the deception here. He can't even engage with the point that is made without.
Well, he knows how evil it is. He
Yeah.
knows how evil and ugly what he's saying is. And so he's trying his best to camouflage it and change the subject to something else.
Well,
I-
it's interesting because I was looking at that and I was thinking, why are you asking him again, Rashid? He just admitted what he thinks the penalty is. But what Rashid was doing is he's making it personal. Do you believe I
Yes.
should be killed? He's saying, yes, I believe the appropriate punishment in an Islamic state. Do you believe the guy who's sitting here at this table to build bridges, should I be killed? And yes, and then Daniel tosses in blasphemers as well, so that everyone knows, no, it's actually both of you that we want to kill.
Asked you, do you believe I should be killed
And
today?
I answered you, sir.
Yes or no?
I answered you.
Yes or no?
I
In a cur-
answered you.
I
and
think
Should I
you said
answer?
yes.
You want me to
yeah,
answer?
yeah,
I said-
yeah, you answered me.
In a proper Islamic jurisdiction,
Yeah.
an Islamic nation, all of the laws of Islam and the Sharia, as revealed by God, should be applied.
So if we were in that kind of state, would you do it?
Including
I'm not the one that executes
with proper due process, with a proper court hearing, just like any nation of.
It's just so funny. Daniel wants to take over and says, "Let me respond," and then he doesn't answer the question either. He
He
just
says the same thing.
he does.
The
He
same
says the
thing
same
Jake
thing.
said. In a proper Islamic state, you'd be killed. But we're not in the proper Islamic state, so we're not going to kill you right here, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow,
and
that makes
notice
a huge
the-
difference. Thank you.
If I were moderating that discussion, I think this is something that Patrick should have brought up, because okay, you guys are talking about in an Islamic state. The obvious next follow-up, once you've admitted both these guys are under a death sentence, should have been two follow-ups. One should have been, do you guys want the United States to become an Islamic state? Are you working towards that? Is that a goal? Are you trying to make the country that these guys live in an Islamic state?
Mhm.
And of course, the answer to that is going to be yes. They would have beat around the bush. Oh, but we're only 1% of the population and blah, blah. No, do you want this to become an Islamic state? Okay. And you've said that if you get your way, these guys are dead. Okay. So these guys are dead. So can you blame them for vigorously opposing you? Or how do you call them names and call them Islamophobes and call them racists for vigorously opposing an ideology which calls for their deaths? And that's what's always amazing to me, right? Like, AP, how dare you oppose the spread of an ideology which, if it gets its way, is going to execute you?
Shame.
And
on you.
notice we're all in the same boat here. AP has multiple death sentences on him. Me and Robert are in the blasphemer category, but we're all under a death sentence here. We all oppose Islam, and we're called bigots and racists and Islamophobes for opposing people who want to kill us. They actually want us. They're working to build a society in which we are put to death. And when we say, no, we don't want that society which puts us to death, then you're liberals and you're Islamophobes. And
Yeah,
It's
that's exactly the
insane.
point. He calls you and me and Robert and others Islamophobes because we oppose these violent rulings that he proposes, and because he does it. He calls us Islamophobes for that because he presents it as if we were singling out his own ideology when other ideologies also call for the very same thing and that this is normal. We then point out, no, other ideologies don't call for that same thing. Other groups of people don't call for that same thing. We don't call for that same thing. And he then says, well, okay, that's because you guys are not real, whatever. So there's just no way out of this. It is a It is set up from the beginning to the end in such a way that he will always look like he is right. He will always be in the right to call you an Islamophobe, to call you a liar, to call you a hypocrite, and to also kill you in the end. There is no way out of this. And if Patrick Bet-David looked at the situation honestly, he would see that. He should see that. If he doesn't understand it, maybe he should review this. Maybe he should talk to different people. Maybe he should ask himself why he invites and then indicates that he will further invite people on his show who advocate for the killing of entire groups of people while claiming to build bridges. It is just so ridiculous.
It's just incredibly naive. I think toward the end of the show, he if I recall correctly, didn't he ask me to say something that's good about Islam? And I think the problem that he doesn't realize is that Daniel Haqiqatjou and Jake they have plenty they can say that sounds good about Christianity, that somebody who's not informed about Islam will take and think, oh, look how open-minded and generous they are. They revere Jesus. They revere Mary.
Wow.
They think that they're sinless. They think that Jesus will come back at the end of the world. And they have no idea what this is all really about. And meanwhile, if I say that Islam has these difficult aspects in it, then it looks like I'm the bad guy who is the obstacle to building the bridges. So it's all set up so that Haqiqatjou can lie and mislead, and Patrick has no frame of reference to judge what's happening.
Yeah. David just pointed out earlier that they can mention, for example, that they are just a few people right now. So what does it really matter what they want in an ideal Islamic state in America or whatever it is? But think about communists, and I'm bringing up specifically communists because a lot of people who listen to this will probably have a big problem with communism. But
one would hope.
And I had my history. I had my history with communists, specifically with revolutionary communism, with communism in such a way that that it believes in overthrowing the government and installing a communist system by force, which is a very popular idea among communists, which is quite disturbing. But imagine you talk to communists and they come to you and they say, "Yeah, we believe that this whole system should be abolished. The government should be overthrown. They should be, those in charge should be formally removed, forcefully removed. We should seize the means of production altogether and force everyone to obey by our system of communism. And those who resist are traitors of the revolution and will be, judged accordingly. But hey, guys, don't worry, because we are only few people right now. It's not like we are like taking over the country."
Actually,
would the reaction then be, oh, okay, no, you see, these guys are very passionate, very nice. See, look at these gentlemen. They're just here nicely expressing their views, which don't seem problematic at all. Or would the reaction be, are you guys insane? So
unfortunately, all too many people nowadays would think, oh, these guys, they've got it all figured out. They're for justice.
Yeah, of course.
And it's very much the same thing. In order to solve an existing problem, many people are disposed to naively embrace something that would bring a greater problem because they do not realize the implications of the alternative that's being presented to them.
Yeah. But what is your problem with them, Robert? They're just, you see, they are very passionate and obviously very nice gentlemen, very well spoken. They're just expressing their ideas and they have unity. Let's talk about Dylan Mulvaney. Like, isn't that the real problem here?
Yeah, see, it's like a question like that. Once again, I have to say, the show went fine. These guys were exposed. It's very positive in the long run. But when you have a guy say, yes, we want to kill these two guys, and then he turns around and says, okay, what can we do about Dylan Mulvaney? You got to wonder. I have written many articles, actually, about Dylan Mulvaney. I am on abundant record opposing Dylan Mulvaney. And yet to go to that from death for apostates and death for blasphemers. It's just a myopia that is astonishing. But here again, it's increasingly widespread on the right in America because the left has gotten so crazy, and people like these guys, the Tate and these guys, they think Islam is a viable alternative.
That just makes me think these guys have some really, really messed up, twisted priorities. I mean, I see where you have your problem with the way things are going in the culture. I see where you have a problem with leftist ideas. I see where you have an issue with progressivism from your point of view. But then I'm trying to be as fair as possible, and I sit down and I look at it, and this guy here really thinks that stuff, that's the real big issue. That's the real problem, the real enemy. I believe he even made a follow-up video or something where he said that we should focus on the common enemy or something like that, which is just extremely problematic to me. But you sit down and he talks about the common enemy, and he talks about these immoralities and all of that. And to him, inviting these guys, these Islamists who say, oh yeah, we are here, we are against that stuff too, and if we have it our way, and inshallah we will have it our way by slowly converting enough people and then forcing our system upon you, we will execute them, we will execute this guy, we will execute all those who oppose us, we will execute the apostates, we will execute the blasphemers. I don't understand how in the world people think this is rational and reasonable.
In a certain sense, this is just a continuation, AP, of what's been going on since the beginning, since 9/11. After 9/11, George W. Bush, 6 days after, went into the mosque in Washington with Nihad Awad from CARE, which is linked to Hamas, and Abdurrahman al-Amoudi, who is the head of the American Muslim Council, and now he's in prison for funding al-Qaeda. And George W. Bush said, Islam is peace.
Yeah.
And this, of course, became a cliche and people laughed about it, but it also became widely accepted. And nowadays, it's pretty much taken for granted in the wider culture that Islam is a religion of peace that has nothing to do with the terrorists who are operating in its name. And people have joked about it over the years. There was even in a very different time, in a very different America, on Fox about 15 or 20 years ago, there was a comedy show, a news parody show, and they did a segment about all these terrorist attacks, and they're naming the people who did the terrorist attacks, Muhammad this and Muhammad that, and Mahmoud and Ahmed and Abdullah and et cetera, et cetera. And they said, and we have no idea what could be the unifying factor here. We can't figure it out.
Nobody
and
knows.
People would joke and say that the terrorists would say, Allahu Akbar, I'm doing this for Allah, I'm doing this for Muhammad, for Islam. And then the non-Muslims would come to them and say, no, you're not. Islam is a religion of peace. And this is really, that's taken such hold now that even people who are otherwise sensible, they just assume that when somebody like Daniel Haqiqatjou says, I want to kill the apostates, he doesn't really mean it, or that the ideal Islamic state in which this is going to happen is some unrealizable abstraction that's never really going to come to pass. And so it's not anything we really have to be concerned about. And as you noted, he wants to bring it here right now.
I mean, imagine this from our perspective, and you guys at least are supposed to be somewhat in the same group as Patrick Bet David, for example. Like, you're supposed to be in the circle, in the whole Christian conservative point, where I honestly don't think that he represents that very well at all. But for me, for example, I would be an atheist, and I don't politically agree with much of what he stands for. And yet I believe in coming together and talking about anything instead of attacking and insulting each other and all of that. But then we sit together And he thinks, oh yeah, this is wonderful. Let's have conversations. Let's talk to each other. Let's build bridges and let's talk about all the real problems that are going on. And by the way, I just invited some new guests. They are also here to talk about all of these problems. Come in, guys. Come in, Daniel, Haqiqatjou. And he thinks that we should all just sit together and I should just be okay with the fact that they believe I cannot exist. I must be killed in the end. But I'm supposed to just sit there and take that because to him there are different priorities right now because of Dylan Mulvaney. And this looks insane from my perspective and from the perspectives of a lot of people.
Well, this is an absurd age with an incredible denial of reality across the board in so many ways. I mean, Dylan Mulvaney actually is an example of it. You know, some guy prancing around and acting like he's a woman, and everybody has to play along and pretend. Now, I don't mean to derail this whole discussion. You might disagree on all that, but it seems to me to be a species, a kind of the same unreality that people have these fantasies and they put the fantasy in place of reality. And everybody in this scenario is doing that, except us, of course. PBD is doing it. Patrick Bet-David is doing it, saying, you know, can't we just build bridges? Well, yeah, you want to kill them, but can't we find some common ground? You can kill them on the common ground, as a matter of fact, once we find it. And Daniel Haqiqatjou and Jake are doing it by making up their fictional debate where they demolished all our arguments and showed us up and did this incredible dawah for Islam, when really anybody who was awake watching it is thoroughly disgusted that they want to kill people for exercising their freedom of conscience. That they also, you know, we didn't get into it here again. This is some of the many things that we threw out that they just ignored and got away with it. The child marriage and the polygamy, the devaluing of women, all these things. And
that's one point, the child marriage thing. As I was watching it live, I thought, oh, I wish that was brought back and pushed more, because I think in my honest opinion, it is disheartening, and I'm disappointed with the way Patrick Bet-David reacts to some really messed up things, and with how other conservatives don't seem to have a huge reaction to some of the really messed up things these guys say, although lots of people recognize it. But I feel like if the child marriage issue, if the sex with little children issue, and I want to spell it out and speak it out so that everybody can hear what we're talking about, if that was brought to the forefront and discussed more, and if Daniel Haqiqatjou had highlighted that more, I think that would have shown people, that would have made people more disgusted, and maybe even Patrick Bet-David would have reacted to it. Or maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe even in that case, he would have said, interesting. Anyway, let's find some common ground and talk about Dylan Mulvaney.
That's pretty much what happened, because we did mention it, you know, and it just it just got lost in the shuffle and the things that Patrick Bet-David wanted to talk about, which was all about finding common ground and this and that. And so
I see where you're coming from, Robert. I see where you're coming from, but don't you think it's very passionate and very respectable of them to want to have sex with little children? I mean,
I mean, you know, if he's okay with killing apostates, and these guys just sitting there and saying, "Yeah, we want you dead," then I don't know that child marriage would have really put a dent in his agenda.
They are united. At least they're united in wanting to have sex with little children. So you have to recognize that aspect. Yeah, this is just so messed up, man.
Yes, indeed.
You're sick. You are sick.
Yeah.
Also, femur.
You didn't answer me, yes or no?
Also,
so I should be killed.
We did answer.
I deserve to be killed because I left Islam and became a Christian.
According to Islamic law, an apostate like you would be killed. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And according to the Bible,
he doesn't even react.
What?
Did you see that? Patrick Bet-David is in the middle. He's reading something on his screen. He doesn't even react. I'm not even sure he was listening. when Daniel Haqiqatjou said that.
Maybe he still doesn't know that they actually said that.
Interesting.
Q would be killed. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And according
Okay,
to the Bible as well.
let me. This is a.
That's interesting. I didn't pay attention to that, but
Yeah, see, he's not even there. He's doing something else.
Q
Like
would
David.
Okay, thank you.
And
Did you say like David?
Yes, I did.
I'm looking right at the screen. You guys are sitting there chatting. I just finished editing an entire video. What?
Oh
This is so
yeah.
funny.
Well, I wrote a book during the show.
Hey, first of all, I'm telling the truth. I just edited a video.
I'm just taking a page from
if
Daniel.
it finishes
Haqiqatjou.
uploading and processing by the time we're done, we can watch it.
Okay.
Just a heads up to everyone. Turns out that Muslim scholars are now admitting that the Quran is filled with fables and legends, and Shabir Ali even compares the Quran to a comic book. This is awesome stuff. Anyway.
Well, that's great.
Anyway, that'll be up later.
It's important to note, I said earlier on this show that I never said the Bible was fables, but this has become the story of this debate.
Yep.
And 1,000 guys are writing me every day saying, you are a liberal. You think the Bible is all fables. You threw your Bible under the bus, which never happened. You know, I was offering that as one possible understanding of this passage. And this is
no, I understood exactly what you were saying, and I knew that I did know, to be fair, I did know that people would misunderstand what you were saying, and I knew that they would take advantage of that and completely misrepresent what you were saying. So you were making a simple point. Hey, this isn't like going to Surah 9 verse 29 and fight those who do not believe in Allah and saying, okay, that's a command, and so what am I going to do with this? You point out that, wait a minute, you know, if you have a command to kill in the Bible, this isn't just, oh, I go kill. It's okay, this is in the context of human beings are created in the image of God. There are certain rules and rights that everyone, there are certain rules that apply to everyone. There are certain rights that everyone has in virtue of them being created in the image of God. And then by the time you get to, matter of fact, even in the Old Covenant, AP and I were reading a passage from the Torah a couple days ago, and it's saying don't kill innocents, don't do this, don't do that. And then you get to the New Testament, and you're supposed to love everyone. You're supposed to love your enemies. You're supposed to keep peace with everyone. And so,
no, that's secular humanism.
Yeah, the point is, there's all a context to this. We don't just go here and say, bloodbath, we got to go around killing and so on. And so you're pointing out that this is some of these passages are in such stark contrast with, you know, the commands about other people that they make Jews and Christians go, hey, what's going on here? We think something's going on.
Let's watch it.
We need to take a closer look to this, closer look at this, and so on. So you were making that point, and then of course they run with it and say, Robert says the Bible is a bunch of fables. Anyway, the point there is, wait a minute. What Robert said was, some people conclude this, some people suspect this about the text, but I've got some very interesting scholars of Islam saying that the Quran contains fables, and it's not like what you were pointing out. What you are pointing out is there are reasons in the text to be very careful about how you're interpreting the text because of other things the text says within the text, within our script. This isn't us let's apply our 21st century ideas to the text. It's the text itself that is speaking. And you have to reconcile your interpretation of a passage with other things the text says. There, guys.
Anybody,
let's watch it.
I just want to point out the difference is there. I just wanted to point something out, AP. Come on.
Let's watch it.
Finish the point. Listen, the difference is when their scholars are saying the Quran is filled with fables, it's because it's obviously fables, right? It's Quran says when it talks about dual carnane, it's exactly the story we read in the Alexander romance, right? So they look at that and go, okay, this is a fable. What do we do with this? What do we do with this now that our book obviously contains fables? Anyway, now you can just be a dictator, AP, and do what you want.
Quiet, man.
Yeah. So instead of watching this video and understanding what exactly we're talking about, of course, we had to listen to David completely represent the whole thing from his perspective.
First you attack me for editing a video, and not mess around with you guys. And then as soon as I don't know,
somebody said
it's
AP
like you
reads the
attack me no matter
Bible.
what I do.
Somebody said AP reads the Bible. You see, before the show,
AP's a Davidophobe.
Before the show, David said
a racist against West Virginians.
Before the show, David said that he's going to be editing a video while we are streaming. And I then reminded him, I said, David, are you not aware that the Bible says there is a time for everything? And David was shocked. David was shocked. Yeah, anyway. Let's look at what happened here.
And see, these things actually trouble Jews and Christians. There's no reason to cover up that fact that these passages have caused difficulty for Jews and Christians throughout history. And some people would say, actually, these things never happened at all. That they were fables designed to teach.
Do you believe
that they were fables designed to teach that you are to be completely pure and reject sin, and that all that business about killing this one and that one is about rejecting various sins.
We want to know your
Now, the whole point of what I'm saying here, if you would stop interrupting for a minute, I did not interrupt you. The whole point of what I'm saying here is that these passages, precisely in the fact that they have caused trouble for Jews and Christians and have led to differing interpretations of them, demonstrate that the Jews and Christians both have an evolving understanding that comes from later revelation.
All right. So we have seen Robert talk about the supposedly problematic passages that Jake brings up, and Robert says that Jews and Christians had, wrestled with these passages, and some would even say that they are fables meant to teach us something. You can hear there Jake repeatedly ask Robert, "Do you believe that? Do you believe that? Do you believe that?"
And I never said I believe that because I don't believe that.
And you never said you believe that. You were just giving examples
but I was
of how
trying to
Christians
make my point.
handle it. And
I
yet,
was trying to make my point and to finish my point before he ran all over it and twisted it even farther than he already had. If anybody's interested, there's a full explanation of this question that I wrote the other day after this thing because they were lying about it so much. And AP, if you can go to Jihad Watch at some point, I put it up on the screen at I guess you wouldn't see this. It's not on the front page. I don't know how to get you to see this.
you can send me a link to it in the
Send you a link. Wow, I never thought of that.
There is a private
how do I
chat
send
here.
you a link? Private chat.
Here on StreamYard, there is on the right hand, there's private
look at
chat.
that. Private chat. Wow, I love this.
Yeah,
how do you
amazing,
like
right?
that? I didn't know any of this.
Oh,
There
private
it
chat.
is.
I want to use this.
He's going to type some.
Okay, I sent you the link anyway.
Okay, got it.
I sent you a message.
And so there's the full explanation. If anybody's interested, they can go and read the full explanation of this issue. In the middle of the guy interrupting you 20 times, it's difficult to get the whole thing explained. And also, it's just so far beyond them because they read the Quran, and the Quran is just the single literary form of Quran is rant. In the Bible, there's history, there's poetry, there's prayers, there are various different kinds of things. It's not just one extended rant like the Quran. And so you have to understand that there are various kinds of writing that you're dealing with. Anyway, it's all explained there.
Yeah, but so the essence of the issue here is the Muslims, many of them, immediately after the podcast episode, claimed that that Robert Spencer threw his own Bible under the bus. He declared that it contains fables. He declared that it's basically a joke. He said, "Don't believe anything the Bible says." He said he compared it to I don't know, Snow White and whatever it is. They made all kinds of weird accusations, weird interpretations of what you said here, despite the fact that all you said, as we can see here very clearly, is that Christians and Jews handled these things differently, and some have even interpreted it as fables meant to teach a lesson on conduct. But they didn't pay attention to the topic at all. They didn't pay attention to what you're saying at all, or they did not want to pay attention.
Right. They just want to get their gotcha quote, and they thought they had it. And so they're running with it, even though it's not actually what I said, because we didn't give them any gotcha quotes. So they had to find something they could run with. And that's all this is.
That's interesting. By the way, David also used the private chat, which Robert professionally uses to send me a link. David used it instead to say AP is a loser.
Are you working for Daniel Haqiqatjou now?
Yeah, he works for Daniel Haqiqatjou. Yeah. So that's that.
Should be killed.
We did answer.
I deserve to be killed because I left Islam and became a Christian.
According to Islamic law, an apostate like you would be killed. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And according to the Bible
let me. This is a follow-up.
Look, Patrick is just nodding there.
And did you see Daniel Haqiqatjou is laughing? He thinks this is great. If Rashid were put to death, watching with popcorn.
Yeah, he's laughing. He finds it hilarious.
Yeah, he loves it.
Yeah. I have plenty of footage of him saying similar things, even more messed up things to others, and then just chuckling over it. And
really a demonic individual. It's incredible.
There's something really, really, really wrong with this guy. I asked him the very same question. I asked him what should happen to me as an apostate, and he said death, kill. Yeah, that's it. Simple as that. He has no issue with any of these things. I asked him, I even asked him at one point if his own kids became apostates or gay or something like that, would he also want to hand them over to have them executed? He said yes. So,
well, one thing, hindsight is 2020, but one thing I should have asked him during the show, didn't think about it until just this second, was about his parents, because Patrick was very happy to talk to him before the show about that they both are from Iran, and they were like great pals because they were both from Iran, and Daniel Haqiqatjou was telling him how to pronounce his name in Persian, and Patrick Bet David was trying to do it, and they were talking, and he talked about his parents being secular Shiites who were not religious, and so I wonder, are they apostates, and would he want them put to death?
I know for a fact that that he is surrounded with people from his relatives and all that who are not even Muslims, who are.
So does he want to kill all his relatives?
Probably.
It's an interesting question.
He probably wants them all killed. I mean,
apostate prophet.
Let's look at this. I think I sent him a super chat here in his debate with Aristotle.
It says, Daniel, under Sharia, should homosexuals be executed if your own child openly engaged?
Watch the debate that I had with you, A-Puss. He's asking, so this apostate, I debated him already, and all of his questions we discussed in his debate, names? Rehashing it. No. This is ridiculous. What kind of moderation is
call you A-Puss. Purposely just exclude questions to favor a particular debater. So
why not? This is your channel. Why not?
Because I don't want to favor a particular debater. You're the first person out of 600 debates that we've hosted that's asked for this.
Have you ever had? Okay, have you ever had?
I forgot about this. This is so funny. He gets angry because I sent questions of doing that debate.
Oh, that's great.
He starts fighting with James because of this.
Ever had a previous debater come into the chat and try to overtake the Q&A?
He's asking questions. If he wants to ask a lot of questions, I don't think that's unfair. Like, I don't think that's
so. Don't tell me that it's unprecedented that I have a problem with this. Well, it's unprecedented to have a previous debater come and hijack the chat.
It's not.
Look at Harris.
I took care of
the order that they come in.
So my answer to
when I try to respond to you try to speak over me. I'm just giving you a response. Am I like? Do you not want people to hear my response because you know it's better than yours? He said, Daniel, if you're
This was the first time that I saw James like angrily express something like that. He's always very nice.
own child openly engaged in sexual interactions with the same sex, would you want your child to be executed in your ideal Islamic system?
If my own child, do I want my own children and family to be subject to the Sharia? Yes.
Gotcha. This one coming.
And we are proud of that.
Yeah.
We're proud of that.
Yes. Oh yeah. That is Daniel Haqiqatjou. I forgot how entertaining that video actually was. This is funny.
Yeah, I'd never seen that.
Yeah, that's great. I hadn't either.
That's funny. Anyway, let's see. Zagra said, did you gents see PBD's podcast with Tate? Can't decide if it is worse than Tucker's episode with Tate. PBD is a big time grifter to whoa. You can't say that. This is very rude. Very, very rude. We can't say such things. We don't do that.
I thought he actually, he was generally fine. It was just his naivete in regard to what was being said and the idea that we could still build bridges. That was the big problem.
I think he was grifting very hard, actually.
Although now when I see this, and I see him not even react when Daniel Haqiqatjou says, yeah, we want to kill the apostates, and starts laughing. That is disturbing.
Yeah, that's I was totally, I was fine with the way he moderated that discussion. Similarly, like similar idea in the sense of, hey, why did he go on with his bridge building after there were some pretty good reasons to end that?
Well, who else is going to build the bridges?
Yeah, it seems like he just had that set in his mind, and that was what was on the notes, and so he had to go to it. And so instead of adapting, he just stuck with it. But what was being pointed out there is, with Andrew Tate, who is a prolific sex trafficker who's been charged with rape and sex trafficking, and they're being investigated for, I think, trafficking minors now and so on. So it's ongoing, and they're saying this trial is going to take years and so on. And Patrick is just throwing him softball after softball. Tell us more about how great you are. How did you become so great? How did you become so amazing? Oh, you're just great. And that's basically it's basically an entire podcast of
but
PBD,
David, don't you know
Andrew
that
Tate explaining why he's so awesome?
Don't you know that Jeffrey Epstein did a lot of good things? He gave jobs to people. He gave good advice. He was a good example. He was a businessman. He probably
John Wayne Gacy too. He helped young men in his in the area find jobs and so on. He hired them. Of course, he raped and killed over 30 boys and buried them under his house. But apart from that,
but you can't just invalidate.
He worked with youth organizations. He worked as he would show up free of charge to kids' birthday parties to play a clown and stuff. So you can't hold the all the killing and raping and burying people under his house against him.
I also know for Jeffrey Dahmer, for example, he was very nice to the people that he interacted.
He was super nice.
Yeah, super nice guy. I don't know why people blame him for luring lots of people into his house and then chopping them up and eating them and putting them in his fridge and stuff like that. Like just put it aside,
It's Dahmer phobia. That's the only explanation.
So I did see his interview with Andrew Tate and actually sat through it, and it was horrible. That was the first thing I saw from Patrick Bet-David. I thought I got angry with it. It's very hard to listen to Andrew Tate anyways. It's like you sit down and you listen to some typical guy who was educated, just going to a cafe and got all his knowledge from there. He was talking about how Genghis Khan was great. He didn't have to go and take Vienna. He would be great even without taking Vienna. And I'm just thinking, wait, what are you talking about? Genghis Khan didn't take Vienna. He didn't even attempt to take Vienna. He didn't even go near Vienna. What are you talking about? But this is the guy that Andrew Tate is. His head is full of information that he gets from here and there that has nothing to do with reality. And he sits there. He spends half the time talking about that false information, and most of the time basically bragging about how great he is, how he's basically like Genghis Khan and like this guy and like that guy.
Yeah,
and
he compares himself to Batman, all these rulers and so on. He compares himself to a Nazi U-boat. It's weird, but hey, AP, now that you mention it, because again, earlier I'm thinking, I've done live streams where I'm very nice to someone that I really disagree with, and people are
you do one with me every week.
Yeah. So no, but I've had Muslims on. People, why didn't you blast him and stuff? Like, hey, he's a guest on my live stream. I'm not gonna attack him without provocation or something like that. But you pointed something out earlier that is actually interesting in this context, because
everything
you
I
pointed out
is interesting.
that you pointed out that he was aggressive to Anthony Weiner.
Yeah.
Now, what did Anthony Weiner do? If you listed all the things that would upset us, it's like he was sexting a bunch, and that he was insanely stupid, right? You're like, wait, you're a politician. You're a politician. I mean, this guy was running for mayor of New York. He was a congressman. He was going to eventually ran for mayor of New York City. And so it's like, hey, you had political aspirations, and you just couldn't stop sending people pictures of you naked. You just couldn't stop doing. Are you stupid? So you're
underage
saying
girls too.
Yeah. So notice, I would look at that and I would say, okay, this dude is really messed up. I understand the aggression towards him for that stupid stuff. But as far as I can tell, Tate is way, way, way worse. The things Tate was doing were way, way worse.
And that's
because
not what
he's actually
going after Weiner for.
Yeah, so he's actually trafficking. Tate is actually trafficking people, having sex with the minors, not just sending the pictures, having sex with minors, and he's the hero. He's the hero of the world, according to PBD.
But remember, he was going after Weiner about the Clintons and the Clinton body count.
Oh, I have no idea.
That is the Clinton death list. All the people who've committed suicide who worked for Bill and Hillary. That's what he was going after him about. If he asked him about his own activities, that was not in the clip I saw. I don't know. I didn't see the whole thing.
Hey, Robert, I once posted a video.
Down with the whole Wiener talk.
I once posted a video of my cousin Eric, who had an encounter with Anthony Weiner in Central Park. He said he saw that Anthony Weiner was on a bench behind him, and he's talking to his buddy in Central. My cousin Eric is talking to his buddy. And so he kind of points like this and says, "Hey, it's Anthony Weiner." He said all of a sudden his friend looks like shocked. And so he turns around, and Anthony Weiner's like right in his face, right? But the way my cousin's telling the story, he goes, I turn around, Weiner in the face, right? And so he's telling the story like that. And he's saying he said he kind of froze because he was surprised that Anthony Weiner's like right in his face. And so he doesn't say anything. He just looks at him. And then he says, Anthony Weiner goes, "That's what I thought." And he starts walking away. And he's like, this is Eric. This is my cousin. He says, he says, "That's what I thought." So he knew these guys, he knew my cousin was talking about him. So he goes up to him, like start something. And then my cousin doesn't say anything. So Anthony Weiner goes, "That's what I thought." He starts walking away. And my cousin, who's from West Virginia, like me, I don't know how he let him get away with that much. But he says, as soon as Anthony starts walking away, he goes, "Hey, Carlos, aren't you a little close to the school?" Right. And so he has this, he tells an ongoing story of this saga with Anthony Weiner and stuff. And he says, he shows up a couple days later and he goes, "I'm walking through Central Park again, looking around for Weiner, no Weiner in sight." And he tells this story. He finds a right where Anthony Weiner was sitting, he finds a credit card. And my cousin Eric pulls out the credit card for evidence. And it's Huma Abedin's credit card that my cousin had from Huma Abedin. This is years after their divorce, and he still
found
got her.
Huma Abedin's credit card in Central Park?
either Huma Abedin dropped it. What was she doing, meeting with Anthony Weiner after being separated all these years, or Anthony Weiner still had her credit card, and this dope leaves it in Central Park.
I'm trying to have a serious show here, and these guys are talking about Weiner for forever. It's just
well, we figure with this atheist show, we should just be talking about Weiner the entire time.
I want to have a I actually want to go through this here on a different day, but I quickly, since it came up, Jordan
It's a
Peterson,
totally different topic, man.
Jordan Peterson is actually one of the people who surprisingly,
and let's talk about Anthony Weiner. Hey,
agreed to this character thing, and I've watched him apparently.
he's talking about Andrew Tate here.
Agreed to this characterization online. It's hard to get I'm not trying to be the jury here because I haven't heard the whole damn story, but from what I've watched is he would enter into relationships with women and tilt them in the direction of generating like an OnlyFans following and monetize that and then take a percentage. And there isn't anything about that I think is acceptable. And you could say, well, women are the captains of their own soul, and if they want to monetize their own attractiveness, then what the hell?
So he's putting it very, 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 very mildly here, but at least he has the decency. And I said a lot of things about Jordan Peterson in the past. David knows, he's a witness to it. I was on occasions very harsh about Jordan Peterson, especially during his interactions with Islam and all of that. But I have to respect the consistency and the integrity that this guy has here in noticing that Andrew Tate builds relationships with women just to then use them for sex work and monetization. And he sees that, he points it out, and for that reason says, I cannot possibly, just look over it, like look past that. It's too obviously terrible. And I like the guy's consistency here. It's great. But there's actually a funny part here that I thought was interesting.
There's no funny part.
There's a funny part. There's always a funny part. If I say there's a funny part, then there's a funny part. I'm going to look for the word here. This is him acting like Andrew Tate.
Or I truly believe they're amongst the most contemptible of people. I think there's nothing in, the pimp is, I've got all these hoes and look at me like, king of these women. And it's like, no, you are the ultimate in pathetic, parasitic predators. There's nothing about that.
I've got all these hoes.
No, I have to correct him on that one. Tate is not the ultimate in parasitic predators. Muhammad was. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. He might want to disagree with that.
Hey, AP.
You're wrong. Yes.
A video's up if you want to if we wanted to check that out by the
I
end.
don't care what you your video.
Yeah, the video I edited while you guys were, I don't even know what you're talking about because I wasn't listening.
Don't lie, you were listening, you were paying attention.
But we've got actual Muslim scholars saying the Quran is filled with fables and is basically like reading a comic book.
Muslims believe that the Quran was revealed.
I didn't know we were just going to watch it.
We're going to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, let's go.
But because it's probably boring, so I'm going to put it on.
You can do that. You can do that. Put it 1.2.
I'm just kidding.
But many of Muhammad's contemporaries were convinced that he was copying earlier stories, some of which were fables, and passing them off as divine revelations. Interestingly, 14 centuries after Muhammad's critics repeatedly accused him of plagiarizing fables, Muslim scholars are starting to agree. Let's find out why. In Surah 18, we read about the sleepers of the cave, a group of people who supposedly went to sleep in a cave and woke up 300 years later. This fable goes back to people like Bishop Stephen of Ephesus around the middle of the 5th century. It was popular among the Christians of Arabia. They knew it wasn't true. They treated the story as a fable. But now it's in the Quran, and more than 1 billion people believe that it really happened. According to
So I have my issues with what you said there.
I don't care.
I want to attack you right here.
I do not care.
I agree with it entirely. I do think, however, there were early Christians, and there still are some who think that is an actual story, or that it actually happened. Although I think it's quite known that it was a myth. It never really happened.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Helper.
Yeah, I just want to ruin your destroy your career here, expose you. You've been humiliated.
No, I read that in what was his name? Something Charles, something Sinclair. He said that lots of people, that these were a lot of the stories that they circulated were basically on the level of bedtime stories. It's like us talking about Santa Claus and things like that. That people tell the stories and so on, but it's something if we said, hey, you really believe that happened? You go, no, I don't believe it actually happened.
Yeah. El said, you sound like a Muslim AP. I agree with you completely, except I disagree. Thank you, El, for that. Yeah.
You're finished already. Look at me. Look at me. You know you're done.
Okay.
Surah 19, Jesus began preaching as soon as he came out of Mary's womb. This story comes from the 6th century Arabic infancy gospel.
Yes.
The story of Satan refusing to bow down to Adam in Surah 15 comes from the 1st century Jewish apocryphal work, The Life of Adam and Eve. The story of a bird teaching Cain how to bury his brother in Surah 5 comes from Mishnah Sanhedrin. The tale of Solomon talking to animals in Surah 27 comes from the 2nd Targum of the book of Esther. The legend of Mary giving birth under a palm tree in Surah 19 comes from an apocryphal work called The History of the Nativity of Mary and the Savior's Infancy, written in the early 600s. The account of Jesus giving life to clay birds in Surah 5 comes from a 2nd century work called the Infancy Gospel of Thomas. One of the most conspicuous legends in the Quran is the story of Dhul Qarnayn. In Surah 18, Allah says that Dhul Qarnayn traveled west and found the place where the sun sets, traveled east and found the place where the sun rises, built a big wall to keep out the hordes of Gog and Magog. We know where this story comes from. It comes from what's called the Alexander Romance, collections of legends about Alexander the Great. There are Muslims.
So here you can clearly see that David Wood is an Islamophobe who lies about Islam. He built his whole career around lying. And how do we know that he's lying? If what he's saying is true, that would mean that the Quran contains stories that are not true. Can the Quran contain stories that are not true? No, because everything in the Quran is true. And there you can clearly see that David Wood is clearly debunked, and from now on, nobody should take him seriously anymore.
Hey, yo, I'm about to bring up, we talked about this guy a while back, Musa Sarantonio. Remember him? He left, left Islam.
Yeah.
I'm about to mention that here. What's interesting is I looked at his release. His release date was earlier this year, but I haven't seen anything about him being released. So I want to look around for that, because that's interesting. Because that guy it'd be interesting to get in contact with that dude and ask him what his views are.
He's the guy who was a
he was a
terrorist, right? He was part of
he was on his way to be a terrorist in the Philippines and stuff. Got caught in prison. He decided to do a lot of reading and stuff. Interestingly, the guy is one of those people who can pick up languages really, really quickly. Like as soon as he studies them, he can start. He understands other languages, and he learned Aramaic, and he reads the Aramaic version of one of the Alexander legends, and he said it was like reading right out of the Quran. And he's like, whoa, something's wrong here. And so he left Islam. He was an atheist last time we heard. So that's a dumb move, but
terrible, degenerate.
Who will leave Islam if you can get them to read the Alexander Romance and then show them what the Quran says about Dhul Qarnayn. Musa Sarantonio, for instance, was an ISIS recruiter. While he was in prison, he read the legends about Alexander the Great, and he noticed the parallels with Dhul Qarnayn in the Quran. What happened then? Musa tells us in an interview with The Atlantic. Realizing that Dhul Qarnayn was not at all a real person, but was rather based on a fictional account of Alexander the Great, instantly left me with only one possible conclusion. The Quran was not divinely inspired, he wrote. It had taken Alexander the Great fan fiction as fact. Of course, I would have preferred to have discovered all that 17 years ago and avoided much trouble. He has therefore abandoned not only ISIS, but Islam and religion as a whole. He is an atheist and admires the God Delusion author, Richard Dawkins.
Alhamdulillah. He found the true religion. He found the true religion. He's following the true prophet, Richard Dawkins. Peace be upon him. This article was written by this guy who also, I can't figure out who this is, but Graham Wood or something like that. Graham something.
Oh, Graham Wood, yeah.
He wrote another book. He wrote a whole book about, I think, ISIS or
Yes,
a
he
different
did.
group, which was called The Stranger, some things. I don't know what is with that guy. I don't know who he is. I think I bought his book, but I never read it. I put it away somewhere.
He wrote for The Atlantic. I don't know if he still does. And he was their expert on Islam and ISIS.
Uh-huh.
And he is very good in one way and very bad in another. I'm trying to find the book title. Anyway, the point is that he's one of these guys. He reports on ISIS. He reports about them more fully than most people and does not shy away from the politically incorrect aspects. But then he will also say, oh, they have nothing to do with Islam and all that. In other words, he's a classic modern secular liberal who does not know anything about Islam. Yeah, does not know anything about Islam.
This book, The Way of the Stranger.
That it's fine.
I got that somewhere here, probably.
Yeah, that's it.
I probably step on it nowadays because I never read it. I don't know. That's what I do with books. Who reads books anyway? Only stupid people read books. That's what Andrew Tate said. So yeah, no, this is good video. This is good video. I want to link this video in the description and in the top comment for people to watch there.
Yeah, but you just got to watch the Shabir clip. You don't need to watch this entire 10-minute video. Get to the Shabir clip.
Okay,
there you go.
Okay, let's watch that.
Believing that we're discussing real events.
Now, it is true that some things that the Quran says are not going to be suitable to Christians because they don't find those in their Gospels, and they think that these come from apocryphal sources. Why should we trust that? But I've explained, and you've heard me, so there's no need to repeat, but because David has raised the question again, the point is this: the Quran is referring to what people already know. It's like if we say to you, remember how this Hulk guy was, when he was a human, he went around shopping for a stretchable underwear, and knowing obviously he'll need that when the moment occurs. So then somebody who doesn't know what we're talking about will think we're referring to actual persons, but you know that we're referring to a person in a movie or in a Marvel Comics description. In a similar way, when the Quran is talking about Jesus in a particular way, it could be something based on history, it could be something based on the previous literature. It's calling the attention of the people to the story and drawing out the Quranic lessons.
Now, did you catch that? Did you just catch Shabir comparing stories in the Quran about people like Jesus and so on to, maybe it's just talking about, as you and I would talk about, the Hulk or something like that, Marvel heroes. Well, if that's the case, then when the Quran tells us that the Jews thought they killed him, but they killed him not nor crucified him, maybe this is just a kind of comic book story that we're not supposed to take seriously.
Muhammad Assad held.
There you go. That's a good point. That is a good point.
And then I go through, and then after this, just for people who want to check it out later, I go through a bunch of passages from Muhammad Assad in his Quran, where every time he gets to the story of the sleepers of the caves or stories about Solomon talking to animals and so on, he says these are legends. These are just legends, and the Quran is trying to make a moral point out of these legends.
You see these Muslim scholars throw the Quran under the bus and
basically throw it on the bus.
Exposed to all of us that Islam is just fables. Islam is like Marvel. Why don't you go watch Marvel movies instead of practicing Islam? They're better. It's even more entertaining. Yeah. Wow.
Cease. It is better for you.
Yeah.
Lose faith. I tell you, lose faith. It's better for you.
Yeah. I have a sound for everything nowadays. So, Muslim Tate versus Christian vocab Malone rap battle. That's a funny idea. That's a funny idea. Thank you, Apollos. Thank you. Gordon Bulldozer said Daniel versus Hassan Piker when? That would be catastrophic. David said, this is not the same David, by the way. David, some people might not know, is a name that different people can hold. It's not just David Wood.
Yeah, don't automatically think everyone who has the name David is super cool like me.
Yeah, David thinks he's the only one. Inspiring Philosophy just had a live stream with Jay Dyer refuting Jake's other false claim that the Trinity was not taught by Christians pre-Nicaea. Yeah, we addressed it earlier. You probably made a super chat before we even talked about this. So yeah, I appreciate that. Check that out, everybody. Inspiring Philosophy, his channel dealt with this quite deeply. Gornar's Bulldozer said someone should make Dawa Chud Wojaks.
What is that?
I do not know what that means.
Robert and David don't know what this is about because they are old. You can't blame them. Who can blame them? This is a meme that recently emerged, which is, and it's a meme. That's all you need to know. Just Google it. Shakeen Kafir.
He can't even pronounce it. This proves he was never a Muslim. You are never a Muslim, liar.
King Kafir said, "You guys are doing great work in bringing the reality of one Islam in front of the world. One Islam is the best kept secret in the world, and now is the time to show the reality to the world."
We don't need to show. We don't need to show him. Daniel's showing him.
Daniel will
Jake
show the whole
Jake
world.
is showing him. Ali Dawa is showing him. They're all showing him.
Yeah.
So the problem is not that people aren't showing them. The problem is people just won't listen.
Yeah, they said it right there on stream. According to one Islam, apostates are to be executed, blasphemers are to be executed. In one Islam, there's jihad, there's fighting the disbelievers, oppressing them, taking them as slaves and sex slaves. That is one Islam for you. I don't know why this person types one Islam instead of Islam, but it's kind of weird. Brandon said, but thank you for the super chat anyway. Brandon said, "Great show, guys, but honestly, as a Christian, I would rather work with a Muslim family group than bow down to the alphabet mafia. Just saying."
Good luck with that.
That's what Robert says.
Could backfire very severely.
Yeah.
Let's go, Brandon.
You finished. You should invite James Lindsay on sometime soon. This is so many times James. I don't even know who James Lindsay is, but
who is James?
So I have no idea. Some guy on Twitter, I think. I don't know. I'll check it out.
It's probably this person just promoting himself.
Probably. No, I know that there's an account on Twitter named James Lindsay that catches quite some attention, but I have no idea who that is and what that person believes in and why I should do that. Interesting stuff. Yes, sir, Mr. Research. PBD's mindset equals enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Maybe so, yeah.
Okay, but it doesn't even make sense in this case. Because he should recognize that the very people that he then takes as friends are the ones who actually consider him and his culture the enemy. And he fails to see it because he just sits there and just nods without listening to what is being said.
It did look like that, didn't it?
He sits there and just ignores the fact that these guys say, hey, you know what? If we guys take over and we want to do that, and we will do that, we will enforce our system to hell with your values, and we will do this by force. And if you resist, we will kill you. And the apostates, we will kill them too. You know, we will take care of your problems. We will just kill everybody. And he's like, interesting. Let's find common ground. Let's talk about Dylan Mulvaney now. Robert, did you ever notice that the way you pronounce his last name sounds like Haqiqatjou?
No, it sounds like Haqiqatjou. That's right, what he sounds like. He's saying. Yeah, but that's just what his name sounds like.
Isn't that what his name is?
It's Haqiqatjou.
Oh, it's Haqiqatjou. It's not Haqiqatjou. It's Haqiqatjou. Got it.
Yeah, that's what it is. No, I think it is Haqiqatjou. Like it's supposed to be.
He's
There's
just
supposed to be like a,
telegraphing his anti-Semitism.
Yeah, he wants to brag about what he wants to do, but you can say, if you say it's actually my name, that Haqiqatjou.
I think it is in Persian. It is supposed to mean truth seeker or truther or something like that. Hakikat means
Well,
truth.
that's how they seek
and
truth. They kick
yeah,
a Jew.
yeah.
What would it mean in what would that mean in Turkish, AP?
Same thing. Same thing. Haqiqatjou. Mosh Cohen said, "Don't mind me, just your weekly Mossad money. Thank you so much. Thank you. Say hello to my my boss at the Mossad. I'm trying to do my best here. Unfortunately, this whole last week I was a little bit disappointed with my employers because they delivered arms and supported Azerbaijan and basically committing what is very close to ethnic cleansing of Armenians. But nevertheless, I'm only doing all of this for money from Israel, so I will respect them anyway. But thank you. Keep up the good fight, you guys. Raw, keep exposing their taqiyya nonsense. Jokes aside, last week and this week, the whole conflict between Azerbaijan and the Armenian region, which, to be fair, is internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan, which includes the region Artsakh, which was overwhelmingly populated by Armenians. I think over 95% or so. The government of Azerbaijan, with the help of Turkey and also supported by other states and supplied by Israel, went there and basically cut off their supplies, employed this strategy to starve the population there, to leave them desperate, to then go in and take over and declare, you guys are not autonomous, you guys are not Armenia, this land is our land, this is Azerbaijan, and we will take it back and we will rule here no matter if you like it or not. And what happened is, as a result of that, the Armenians living there started a mass exodus. They started fleeing because in Azerbaijan, being Armenian is not really it's not really a very great thing. You don't want to be an Armenian in Azerbaijan. There's a lot of discrimination. Plus, there's been a bloody conflict, and Azerbaijan literally just in these weeks employed this tactic of starving the population in order to take that land. So why would these Armenians still stay there? Of course, they try to flee from that land, but the world is seemingly ignoring it as we speak. That's what's happening. Hope I represented it correctly as far as I followed it. If there's anything,
you sound like a Turkish guy.
Yeah, I know, terrible. Also, I'm being
pretty biased.
Also, Turkish guy, biased. Yeah, I'm being very emotional, and emotional arguments means I lost the debate. Rand said Daniel Haqiqatjou is one of the best strawman debaters. Leave the guy's name alone. Gordon's builder says Zamzamata sounds like a radical sports drink. The Saint Tribal Miracle Worker said the Trinity model is native to Jewish culture, native to ancient Israel. Benjamin Sommer, theology professor, Jewish Theological Seminary of America, said he. Interesting. Thank you for your input. Sakman Mata made a super chat without anything attached. Thank you so much. I'm just going to go through these super chats. There are like 20 more left, surprisingly a lot. So if you guys want to leave, you can just get out. Jeff Derby said the problem is you're trying to make rational arguments with morons. It is better to argue in a way that they understand with name calling and sensationalism. This is the problem, Robert. Why did you try to argue? Why didn't you just call them names or yell at them or make...
Well, I don't generally do that. And, we were also on this big show. I figured, well, he's asking me a question, I'll answer it. It's...
That's not
I guess I could have just said, you guys are liars and you guys are evil because you want to kill us, and just kept repeating that for an hour and a half or whatever it was. Maybe that would have been better.
You also have to twist their words and lie about them and stuff like that. So you need to debate properly. Sarat said, "Do you think if PPD knew that Daniel was a pedophilia promoter, he would have had him on his show?"
Yeah, I don't see why not. He might have known. We don't know what he knows.
I mean, he was cool with a sex trafficker who's accused of rape and sex trafficking minors, even. So, well, yeah, what's the problem?
Yeah, as long as he has a good message and he's articulate, what's the problem?
And he's against LGBTQ.
Yeah. He could go and he could be a serial killer, serial rapist. He could have chopped up bodies in his basement. Who cares? At least he has he is well spoken and has a good message and is also against LGBTQ agenda, just like us.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. Did you listen to Damariat last time? I swear I didn't. But I will note it down and I will look at it now after this live stream.
Not me. Now he's nagging.
Yeah.
I don't even know what Damar is.
I don't know either. Nobody knows. I'm just pretending that I'm actually engaging with that. I will completely forget about this as soon as this is over. Renee Mohan with a super sticker. Thank you so much. Tanzil Musladin said, AP and David, you should make more debunking videos like on Saif Talks video. And there is hadith that says Arabia will become green again. And now this is happening. What do you think about this? It's a miracle.
Yep. No way around it.
I haven't looked into that as much as I would like to before I address it, but I know what you're talking. I know that there is a hadith which supposedly addresses such a thing. I don't even know the grading of the hadith. I don't know where it is. I really didn't look into it enough to actually talk about this. So, but it could be an interesting thing to address. And David basically says the same thing as me.
No, I'm converting. What do you want to?
David is going to take the shahada after the show. Zhong Shina said, "What are your top 5 worst Quran verses? Can be most evil or most idiotic. There is nothing idiotic in the Quran. It's the best book ever. Going to note them in my critical Quran." Robert, you first.
Okay, how about 551, which actually cuts against the whole idea that Patrick Bet David was trying to establish. Don't take Jews and Christians as friends. I was going to say that a few times. I don't think I ever got it out in the middle of all the maelstrom, but yeah, there's a fundamental hatred there that is also in 582. You've got the Jews and the polytheists are the worst enemies of the Muslims. The 98.6, the unbelievers among the people of the book, which is basically Jews and Christians who didn't accept Islam, are the most vile of created beings. Then that's 3. You've got 929, which is fight the Jews and Christians until they submit and pay the jizya. And 839 is pretty bad. That one is fight until religion is all for Allah, which means endless war, really, until everybody is a Muslim or dead or subjugated, presumably is still an option. That's 5, I think. Those are just offhand, though. There's plenty of other bad ones.
David,
I mean, I would probably have a couple of those as overlap, but if I were to give different ones, is it 3353 with let me just check real quick so people know. I think it's 3353 that is the one about not bothering Muhammad.
I was going to mention that.
Oh yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, so that one. Yeah, it's that's most idiotic. It's Muhammad receiving his revelation saying, "Hey, Muhammad doesn't want to tell you that you're annoying him when you come and hang out and pester him with questions while he's trying to bone his child bride and stuff like that. So stop that. He's not going to tell you, but Allah will tell you through Muhammad, the guy who won't tell you. So there's that. As far as evil 65.4, which promotes sex with prepubescent girls. 434, wife beating. Along those same lines, there are a collection of these passages, but 424, if you read it with the relevant hadith and you know the historical background, you don't get the full picture of what 424 is about unless you know what the question was that was being asked. And so if you read Sunan Abu Dawud, Muslims already knew that they could take women as their sex slaves. You capture a woman in battle, you can take her as a sex slave. But in previous battles, the men had been slaughtered, so they're taking women whose husbands had been slaughtered, and they're taking them as sex slaves. So they already knew they could take them as sex slaves. But in 424, that was specifically, they captured the men and the women. They captured the wives with their husbands. And so Muhammad's followers were actually concerned, wait, if we have sex with these women, is that adultery? Is that adultery? We'd be having sex with married women. And so they go and ask Muhammad, and then the answer comes down from Allah. Yes, married women are forbidden to you, except those whom your right hands possess. So he was saying, yes, ordinarily it's wrong to have sex with a married woman, but since you've captured these women who are married and their husbands are right there, yeah, go ahead and rape them all you want. So that's for another violence one. 973 specifically because it says it's a command to wage jihad not only against unbelievers but also against hypocrites. So this is one of the foundations for slaughtering Muslims of the wrong sect. So when ISIS goes on a killing spree against Shias, that's part of the basis for it, is they're commanded to wage jihad not only against unbelievers but also against hypocrites. It's also important because when ISIS started going around killing other Muslims, we were told, see, they're not real Muslims, they're killing other Muslims. Not really, wait, they're obeying what the Quran says. So so deal with that. I just thought I thought of an awesome one, AP. I got to scratch one of those other ones off my list. But 3321, which names Muhammad as the pattern of conduct. That could be the worst. That could be the worst possible. That could be the worst one of all. Taking Muhammad as your pattern of conduct. Sorry, I snuck 6 of them in there.
That's fine. Of course,
But
David had to.
What are you going to do, sue me?
David had to give a 2-hour answer to a question again, as he always does. What can you expect? This is just how it is.
Well, I figure you let your live streams go on forever, so we're just going to be here for another hour anyway. So I might as well talk.
Hey, that talk about Muhammad randomly, getting a revelation. It reminds me of this video that I once used when I made a video about the whole hijab issue, where Muhammad is asked about the women who go to the bathroom, and then he gets a revelation about it. This is a Turkish video. This guy is a very unpopular, I don't know if he's still alive, I think he's dead, very unpopular Sufi sheikh who declared himself the Messiah and more, and who lived in America for a while, and he died. I don't know. But this is a funny video of him receiving a revelation.
Bana lütfen cevap verebilir misiniz? Tabiyetim kabul olmuş mu diye? Bilmiyoruz. Evet evladım, tabiyetin kabul olmuş. Şimdi zikirlerine namaz da ilave etmelisin.
I think that's how Muhammad looked when it.
I know that's what I thought. That's probably how Muhammad looked. Yeah. By the way, full transparency, somebody asked me about James Lindsay earlier, and I said I have no idea who that is. I checked James Lindsay, and it says here you have muted tweets from this account. So
wow.
Sometimes I just mute random people when I see repeated things.
You probably muted him because he's anti-communist. It says right there.
And I don't even know who this is or what he stands for, but sometimes I mute. Very rarely I mute people where I think, okay, this is just too annoying, I don't want to read this anymore. I just mute. So yeah, people probably do that to me, and that's fine.
Well, he's anti-communist, which means he's anti-atheism.
Yeah, well, yeah, which means he's pro-Islam. I don't know, something like that. It had the slippery slope has to continue. My top 5 Quran verses are 929 and 930. I see them as one. I love 929 because it obviously shows how Islam is expansionist and violent, and 930 just shows how stupid and uninformed it is. It's brilliant when it says that Jews say Ezra is the son of God. Fantastic verse.
Well, it's funny because when you bring that up to Muslims, I've had Muslims tell me, and I think it was I'm trying to think of who it was. I think it's Tabari who said it. This might be referring to just one Jew or something like that, or one Jew who said it or something like that. But you go to the Hadith, and at the judgment, according to Muhammad, the Jews at the judgment are going to be asked, "Why did you worship Ezra?" And they're going to try and defend themselves. And it's like, wait, this definitely isn't talking about one random person who said it. This is the accusation against the Jews. You guys worship Ezra. You go to all of history, can't find one Jew who ever did this, but somehow it's the Jews in general who are guilty of this.
Lots of people are saying play the clip again, and I don't know why. Like, why am I supposed to play the clip again? I already did it once.
It's powerful.
But of course, if the audience asks for something like this, I will
tell them where the video is. Nick, watch it.
I will happily do that again. This video I published this a long time ago. It's called "The Origin of the Hijab." I included that clip at the end of that. I look very like a child here.
Live talk.
So in here,
you look like a little kid here, man.
Yeah, I know. A
little 14-year-old.
Bana lütfen cevap verebilir misiniz? Tabiyetim kabul olmuş mu diye? Bilmiyoruz. Evet evladım, tabiyetin kabul olmuş. Şimdi zikirlerde
yeah, he was getting a message there. That's amazing, man. That is amazing.
He could have done something cooler, man.
I know.
There's been like
yeah, but no, all he does is just yeah. Oh yeah. Another verse is 434, 855. 855 is this one that says disbelievers are the worst of creatures. 533, which I love it. No, wait, is it 533? No, it is 533, right? The one that says those who wage war against Allah and cause corruption in the land. You should kill them, exile them, crucify them, or cut off their hands and feet from opposite sides. I think it's just I like graphic violence and gore depicted in art, and that is just one of those examples, except that it's not fiction, it's an actual command to Muslims. So
and like the worst part is, I mean, it's bad enough when it's, killed this person for this particular thing. It's this like complete, you could interpret this in a million ways as far as the penalty. It's the penalty for a very vague crime, making mischief. What the heck is that?
Yeah.
Anyone you want to kill, anyone you want to kill, you just say, you made mischief. Quran says I have to kill you. You made mischief. And we see this. This gets applied to people. If they catch you preaching the gospel in Iran, they'll call you. They'll say, you're making mischief in the land. Ali Dawa, when he wanted to apply the Quran to UAP, he said, by announcing your apostasy, you're making mischief. You're
causing corruption.
Causing corruption, and so yes, you'd be killed, and so on. So yeah, it's been a justification for a lot of bloodshed over the centuries.
Yeah. Ibn Kathir's commentary says that
even unbelief. He says even unbelief. Yeah.
He says wage war mentioned here means oppose and contradict, and includes disbelief, blocking roads, and spreading fear in the fairways. Mischief in the land refers to various types of evil, and it continues like that. So basically, anything that you do in terms of disbelief or spreading corruption, disunity, could be interpreted as this, and your punishment could be then crucifixion, cutting off hands and feet, and so on.
Robert's wearing a purple tie. He's spreading mischief in the land.
Crucify him, cut off his hands and feet. Robert, is that you? There's a sound coming from your microphone or something.
There is?
What is that?
Yeah, what is that? It's probably David. It's probably messing with us
now. It's when Robert turns his head.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, see? See that?
Is that your?
I think
those
those headphones are being used for audio, and it's brushing up against your.
Okay, well,
that's funny. Anyway, another verse I was going to say is 3:3.
Nope. Yeah, went away.
Yeah, but that's David already
Okay,
said.
I just moved the chord. So there you
That's
have
good.
it.
That's good. That's good. Question for Robert and David: how does one respond to the claim that Jesus was just a teacher who never claimed to be God? Thank you and God bless.
He did claim to be
a Christian
God.
channel.
It's in John 8:58. Before Abraham was, I am.
So the question is, how do you respond to the claim that Jesus never made these claims? I guess he's just a wise teacher. Yeah. So you have different views. So notice this is even
not too long. Remember, this is an atheist channel.
This is even a more watered down Jesus than the Islamic Jesus. He's just a nice teacher going around. Question would be, why did so many people want him dead?
Because he was spreading secular humanism.
Yeah, he spread secular humanism and they wanted him dead. But yeah, you did have groups like the Jesus Seminar and so on, who are, Jesus is just walking around telling people parables. And check out the lilies of the field. Oh, let's derive a lesson from the lilies of the field. It's like, why did people want this guy to die? Like, we have a reason. If you deny the reason and you go with, hey, he's just this nice guy. He's just a nice guy walking around. Okay. Doesn't seem like the guy who would enrage people into wanting to kill him. What are you laughing at? Your live streams never end, and then you just sit here laughing. Everyone has to pee. Everyone has to pee like crazy.
I'm laughing.
No one can because we're stuck.
I'm laughing at I'm still laughing at my own joke that they wanted to kill Jesus because he was spreading secular humanism. I find it funny.
Because he was liberal. He was a liberal. They looked at him and said, "Look at you talking about loving your enemies. That's you're supposed to slaughter your enemies in the name."
You're throwing your own scriptures under the bus.
Yeah, you're supposed to slaughter people in your own name.
XWLCXX said all three of you guys should 100% interview Musa Sarantino. Maybe.
Be happy to.
Yeah,
be happy to.
When I meet you,
give me a call.
Musa, give him a call. Gordon's Bulldog said some should be called the Sand Dune Kids. Don't say that. That's very offensive. XXWLZXX said also interview Tom Holland, historian. I tried to contact him. I couldn't get a hold of him at all. He has a very interesting book on history of Christianity and how it manifests in morality and also jihad and so on, whatever. Daryl said, my jizya payment. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This way you will make sure that you will not be killed by the authorities, not by me. I'm just saying we have gangsters too. Grace 174 said, do you guys happen to have any thoughts on the book of Enoch? The thoughts. Do you have thoughts?
In college.
David, do you have thoughts?
No.
I don't have thoughts either. I hope that answers the question. Thank you, Grace.
Oh, hey, I actually have to go. My wife's telling me I'm supposed to be downstairs taking care of the kid.
I know this is too long. David, Robert, you can go too if this is too long.
No. Sometimes we have a nurse at 10. Tonight the nurse had to change it to 11. So there's actually I'm supposed to be down there until she gets here. So if you're still happen to be going after 11, I'd be happy to jump back on with you, AP. Although that would be the dumbest, most ridiculously long live stream.
I want to finish my super chats. Okay, people make super chats and I appreciate it.
All right, I'll stick around for the super chats.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm heading downstairs.
Okay.
All right.
Get the hell out of here.
Okay. Consider Islam said, you are great. Is it not forbidden in Islam to laugh? This show isn't halal anymore.
It is not forbidden in Islam to laugh. I'm writing this book, Muhammad, a Critical Biography. I'm very excited about it. It's coming along great. And I just have been writing about some stories where Muhammad laughs so heartily that his back teeth are showing because he's just tossing his head back and laughing. And it's when several of his enemies are murdered.
That's amazing. I would laugh.
So this is something that he just loves, and he laughs and laughs.
That's a fantastic occasion to laugh. I think it is very relatable. It brings all of us together. Any of us, if our enemies are brutally murdered, we would just find that hilarious and laugh. See, this is the wisdom you find in Islam. HG80 with a super chat. Thank you so much. Radical Moderate said, kids are sterilized, mutilated, robbed of ever having an O on an industrial scale. This is not just some man pretending he's a woman. So we can't unite with Muslims to stop this madness?
Yeah, sure. The problem is that will not stop them from holding all the positions that Islam teaches about unbelievers. And so you are going to be pals and you're going to fight all this. Great. But don't get any illusions that you're really going to be friends or that you're going to have some kind of lasting alliance, and watch your back.
Yeah. So no matter what your view is on the societal change that is going on, and if you want to depict this as if this is like sweeping and taking over the entire world, and it's such a big problem that it's happening at every corner and all of that, no matter how you want to see it, even if it is that way, it just does not make sense. Okay, let's say you have such a problem, you want to deal with that problem, and then you really think the way to solve that problem is to align with that very group that is that is against your entire existence,
Yeah.
against the fundamental values which you want to defend, for which you are against these changes that are happening. You want to align with those who have been the enemy of your fundamental values all along because of this recent problem. How does it even make sense? That's
Indeed.
a very stupid solution, a very stupid way of approaching that problem. You are saying, oh look, on the surface, a lot of stuff is happening right now that is deriding and endangering these dearly held values that we have, these fundamental values that make us so wonderful, that make life so amazing here. Because of this, I have a great idea. I should partner with those people who have been wanting to destroy the fundamentals that I hold so dear forever. Man, brilliant. Genius move. What can I say?
It's crazy. And a lot of people are going to have a rude awakening when they realize, oh, the Muslims are just what the Islamophobes said they were. And here we are thinking that we were all pals now because we're fighting this trans business with them. And it's just never going to go any farther. They will happily work with you. They have no trouble making alliances with unbelievers. That is no problem at all. It's all through history. Unbelievers have been helping them. You read my book, The History of Jihad. How did Tariq ibn Ziyad get to Spain? He didn't want to use his own boats because he knew that the Spanish had defenses and would attack his boats if they saw them coming. So there was an angry Christian who was angry with the Visigothic leader of southern Spain, and he said, you can use my boats, because he wanted to get back at this King Roderick. And so he used his boats. And once they got over there, they took over, and he didn't do his friend any favors, and he didn't favor the group. They took over the whole country and had it for 700 years. And there are many, many other examples I can give.
Yeah. To make a follow-up clarification, Radical Moderate said, OMG never said pals, use as assets. I don't know how to explain this to you, and I understand what you think and where you're coming from, but do you really think that you are the only one in that relationship who is smart enough to use that group to address a certain problem? First off, you are not the only one, because the other group has been doing that for a very, very long time and is using deception specifically to get what they want. Plus, a lot of people in your own circle and in your own culture don't even realize what you are trying to do, and genuinely are deceived by the Islamists, and genuinely think, oh, you know what? I had my reservations about these guys, but they seem to be very nice. They are so friendly to me. Maybe, we should come closer to each other. And good luck with that, man. Good luck with that. I'm sorry, but I think it's a very stupid idea. And especially as an apostate, there is no way that I can possibly sit here and think, oh yeah, you know what, that makes so much sense. Yeah. So much sense. Yeah. Let me befriend the people who think that you should be executed as soon as they get power, and see how you feel about that.
But look how nice they are.
Messianic Apostate said, Robert, was Daniel worse than Javad and Asadullah?
I never did debate Asadullah. I thought he was absurd. I actually just mentioned The History of Jihad. I wrote this book in 2018, The History of Jihad. That's the history of jihad. It's 1,400 years of history condensed into one book. And Asadullah said he was going to do a refutation in a series of videos. And I thought he's going to be in big trouble because nobody ever deals with the history. This is why I wrote the book. People deal with the Quran and Muhammad and modern day. Both the Islamic apologists and the non-Muslims. They only deal with the Quran, Muhammad, and the present day. Nobody knows the history. And so that's the gap that I was trying to fill. And I thought when I saw his first video, and his first video was absurd, he's saying, I had, Muhammad saying, I've been made victorious with terror. And he's saying, oh, this is not terrorism. This is the fear of God. Yeah, sure, buddy. Yeah, like Muhammad was cuddly and sweet and never killed anybody. But he stopped this. He did like 3 videos and then he stopped. He did Quran and Muhammad, and he did not touch the history at all. And so he's just, a guy like that. What does he want to debate? All I had to do was go to chapter 4 through chapter whatever, however many there are in the book, and he wouldn't have any answer. Javad I did debate, and it was the same kind of thing as is happening now, that it was pretty one-sided and he lost big. He was absurd in a different way. Javad spent a lot of time criticizing American foreign policy and saying, this is Christianity. See, this is just the new crusades. This is just the U.S. foreign policy is just designed to spread Christianity. And it was all stupid. And so he lost big, but then he actually disappeared for a year. And I think because he was so embarrassed about how badly he did, and then came back and started thumping his chest and saying, I destroyed you in the debate. And he got his job with MPAC at that time. And he actually put in his MPAC bio that he got the job because he beat me so bad in a debate. And it was all stupid again. But the difference between what's happening now and that is that in both cases, they were exposed and they lost and they claimed victory. But Javad, because he's a liberal Muslim who doesn't really believe in anything Islamic, he and I actually see eye to eye on the historicity of Muhammad. In other words, there is none, and on many other things. But the thing about Javad is he only has like 5 followers. So his 5 followers were coming around and saying, oh, you lost the debate. You were humiliated. Your career is ruined. Daniel Haqiqatjou has like thousands. And so they just keep coming.
He has over 200,000.
The same phenomenon.
Yeah, Javad is he's a weird, funny guy. Muslims don't like him. They think he's a reformist idiot who's corrupting the religion. He calls them out for being such intolerant and violent people. But then he basically adopts the very, very same way of communicating with the disbelievers as they do. Calls people Islamophobes, attacks them, lies about them, says, you're scared of me, which is very funny because he is supposed to be, he brags about how he's an academic. I'm just a regular guy who studies and who does YouTube videos. He told me that he wants to have a debate with me. I said, okay, yeah, sure, let's do it. And I think it's been like 2 years maybe since he made that offer. And I reminded him several times. And he still has to get back to me, and each time he comes with a different thing. Like, oh, I work for some people now. I first have to get their approval to debate you. Okay, yeah, sure, whatever. Just let me know when that is cleared. And then later it's like, oh, I want to focus on something else for the moment. But then I'm not saying that he's scared to debate me or something, but he clearly has a problem with addressing some things publicly, I guess.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
Well, his position is completely ridiculous. Mean, he was trumpeting this article by this Islamic scholar Joshua Little about Aisha, and it's the most ridiculous thing. Joshua Little wrote this 586-page doctoral dissertation about how Aisha was not really 9; she was really 18 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so it's just classic Islamic apologetics, even though Joshua Little says he's not a Muslim, and he may not be. I don't know. and he is supposed to be doing academic work. But the crazy thing about this is that if you read the dissertation, which I have, and I just it's just I couldn't believe it, because Joshua Little actually quite honestly dismisses at the beginning the historical value of the Hadith, which I also do. I wrote a book, Did Muhammad Exist? And it's clear that when you have these traditions that are 150 to 200 years after Muhammad, they contradict each other, and they're different versions of them, as I'm showing in the new book, Muhammad: A Critical Biography. There's no historical value to any of this, and Joshua Little says that, and he talks about the isnads, the chains of transmitters, and says those can be forged. They were forged. They were changed. They're different versions of the same story, where you have obviously somebody's substituting an isnad chain that looks stronger so they can make it look like an authentic hadith. And then he bases his whole argument on how Aisha was not 9 on criticism of the isnad chains of the traditions that say she was 9. And I think, buddy, you just said the isnad chains were not reliable and could easily be forged. Yeah. And now you are staking your whole doctoral dissertation on the idea that you can tell from the isnad chains that these stories about Aisha being 9 are not real. So it's completely self-contradictory. And it also destroys Muhammad entirely, because if you start to say that the Hadith are not authentic and the Sirah literature is not authentic, you don't have any Islam left. But Joshua Little is maintaining the self-contradictory tradition. And then Javad jumped on the bandwagon and said, you see, Joshua Little has proven that Aisha was not 9. And so the Islamophobes are exposed. And it's just the most absurd argument I ever saw.
The first time I heard of Javad was when somebody was talking on Twitter about Islamophobia or something like that, and he said he said that there are genuine critics who approach the matter nicely in a balanced way, and then there are Islamophobes who don't know much and they just want to spew hate. And as an example to that, he mentioned Abdullah Samir, and like Abdullah Samir or not, but he's like the softest guy in terms of criticizing Islam. And
I'm no fan of Abdullah Samir, but I do see that he's not some kind of bloodthirsty, fire-breathing attack dog.
I mean, I can see that you would call me an Islamophobe who just spreads hate. I could get that.
I thought you were going to say he was going to mention me.
Yeah, or you. But going and mentioning Abdullah Samir.
Well, do you remember, AP, do you remember Loon Watch?
No, what was that?
This is going back like 10 years or more, 10, 15 years. It was a site that was devoted to attacks on all the so-called Islamophobes.
Yeah, he was there on their.
Yeah, he was the main guy who was the writer there, Danios. And so he was very vicious and dishonest then, and I don't think he's really changed.
Yeah, Jawad is an interesting character. AJ said, what do you think about more than 50,000 mosques closing down in Iran? Religion or politics?
There's no difference in Islam. Religion and politics are all mixed up together.
Yeah.
And the people in Iran have had 40 years of the Islamic Republic, and they're thoroughly sick of Islam as a result. And only 40% identified as Muslims in a recent poll, because they've lived Islam. They know what it's like. They've gotten the real thing in 100% dose. They're tired of it.
We've seen recently what happened when the population stood up and protesting. It was the Iranian government that started shooting at the own people and massacring them, doing what only other infamous regimes like China did a long time ago, for which they are known and hated, at least by those people who have a little bit of memory and integrity. But it is Iran that claims to, follow these Islamic values and then imposes them so badly, because that's what Islam is. Otherwise, you can't have Islam.
Yeah. They terrorize their population because the Quran says to strike terror in the enemies of Allah. So that's the only tool they've got in their box. That's the only way they can fix the problem.
Alhamdulillah, that's true Islam. Mush Cohen said, Azerbaijan is our bridgehead to Iran. We don't really have a choice here. We also supply Armenia. We tend to take threats to genocide seriously. I know you're speaking on behalf of the state of Israel, Moshko.
I support Israel 100%, but I think they're drastically wrong-headed to support Azerbaijan.
It was lots of people who are pro-Israel, who are Israeli and quite, apologetic, have called out the terrible choices that Israel made in terms of the conflict, and how Israel basically contributed to the oppression of Armenians in this conflict. So it's really shocking. But that's as much as I can say critically of Israel, because they are my employers. I do everything for the Jews. Jeff Dribbler said, "Does Robert have casual mode?" No, Robert Spencer actually sleeps with his suit on.
This is actually my casual tie. You like it?
Oh,
it's more casual.
Nice.
This is the kick back and relax tie.
Nice. Recent answer said, "Coming to farm soon. Scenery starting to change."
What does that even mean?
Oh, I think that's for me. This is Thaddeus, I believe. And I think what he's trying to say is that we should meet up and do some more. Yes, do some videos where we make scientific experiments with the Quran. Bobo Ewan said, "You see, can't take atheists seriously." I know, atheists are terrible people. Bobo Ewan said, "Take." You didn't
talk before.
You didn't have to make an additional super chat to correct that, but I
$5
appreciate it.
to that.
But I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. XXWLZXX said, "It never ceases to amaze me how people go nuts over the LGBTQ agenda and everything they do to kids, but are completely oblivious to all the sick things that are done in Islam, pedophilia, sex slavery, etc."
I completely agree.
Completely agree, and people don't seem to. It looks like, to me, it is when people on the right or on the conservative or traditionalist side react to leftist developments and ideas and things that are happening, it is they are seeing what is happening on the surface. It's happening right there, immediately in front of them. It's all over the media. It's on social media. They see it. It's very easy to react to that. It's hard for them to engage with the fact that the Islamic apologists, who are there to build bridges, believe in going around and killing people. But it's because you are in America, and it's not a reality to you that the Islamists actually go around and oppress people. So to you, it's all just words. And as reprehensible as those words may sound, since you are not familiar with the reality, you don't take it that seriously. But
that's very well put. That's very important.
Other people who live with it know how terrible it is.
That kind of sums up, I think, what happened on the show, that Patrick Bet-David is sitting there looking at his screen and not paying attention while Daniel Haqiqatjou is saying, "Yes, we will kill apostates." Ha 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 ha. And he just thinks that, he's just talking. It's just words. It's not real to him.
Maybe you should go visit Afghanistan right now and see how things work there and think, "Oh, these guys are doing a very good job. Maybe we should, be partners with these guys." And
when Haqiqatjou moves finally to Kabul, then he could go and visit him there.
Yeah, he could go visit him. He could live stream from there and show to all the Americans that this is the way to go. We should all be following the guide of the Taliban. They're doing a great job here. Yeah.
It's going to be beautiful. I'm going to watch that one.
Yeah. I can't wait. Maybe we could even organize a fundraiser to send Daniel Haqiqatjou to Afghanistan.
Yeah, probably apartments. How much could they be? He actually could probably get a very nice house in Kabul right now.
Probably. Yeah.
Come on, Daniel.
Dirt cheap.
Put up or shut up here, buddy. You want Sharia? It's right there waiting for you. His excuse on the show for not moving was how wicked America is, where he lives, because America makes life so miserable for Muslims, you see. And I think, well, even if that's true, then move far away from America. You're probably getting it worse here than you would get it there. And anyway, America left Afghanistan famously in August 2021. You're not going to run into Americans there now. So now's the perfect time, Daniel, to move all the Haqiqatjous over to Kabul. This is it, man. It's your big chance.
Okay, I have to show you something. I showed this already last stream, I believe. Move to, let me see. Oh yeah, here it is. Now, you mentioned that this question came up. It was actually surprisingly Patrick Bet David who asked him, why don't you move there? Why do you live here? And he then gave that excuse, well, liberalism, no proper place in the world and stuff. And I was sitting there watching that live, thinking to myself, you sleazy bastard! Didn't we already have that conversation? And here it is, Robert. I'm not sure if I showed this to you.
No, I haven't seen this.
Prisoning.
When was this? 2020, 3 years ago. I believe that that an ideal government, an ideal state, an ideal nation should be led by these Islamic laws that are strictly applied, under which I am not allowed to speak, I should be put to death for my ideas, or homosexuals should be put to death, adulterers should be put to death, and all these things. Obviously, you don't agree that that liberalism is a good system, and you think that liberalism is a terrible, bad, immoral system. But I want to ask you, where do you live, Daniel?
I mean, I live in the U.S.
You live in the U.S. Why do you live in the U.S.? I mean, this is a question of consistency.
That this system of liberalism is imposed on the entire globe, and that there is no country in the world today that actually implements the Sharia in the fullest meaning and sense of it. I wish that I could go to a country and that's ruled by Sharia, that the West won't bomb and sanction and destroy. I wish I had that opportunity, but unfortunately I can't because of liberal supremacy.
Wouldn't it be more honest and more consistent with yourself, especially also to prove to others that you are trying to spread your ideas to move to a country, for example, that is ruled by Islam?
What country should I move to?
Any country that has
Saudi Arabia, where they are imprisoning scholars for saying anything in line with the Sharia. If I were in Saudi,
yes,
right?
That's lying.
Saudi is doing that because of who? The West, right? Because of Israel, right? Because of America, right?
It's always you glorified Brunei, for example. You wrote an article that says salute the Sultan. Okay, logically, anyone can see this. Isn't Brunei much closer to your ideal world than America?
Well, I mean, there's other issues as well. Like, personally, because I was born in the U.S., these countries aren't giving me citizenship. They won't give me citizenship in many cases.
Not?
And unfortunately, because of the nation-state system, if you're not a citizen, you aren't born there, then you're a second-class citizen. Like,
you want to talk about discrimination, and you want to talk about two-tier status in Islamic law. Look at the modern nation-state and the two-tier status between citizens and non-citizens, and the different treatment on the basis of where you're born. How is that more rational than the kind of treatment within Islamic law on the basis of belief, like the believer, the Muslim versus the non-Muslim?
I feel like we're beating around the bush here.
No, that's exactly the reason. I have also personal reasons because my family is here. My family, my parents are here. They're elderly.
His Murtad parents.
So if you want the complete honest answer, that's a big part of it. But if it weren't for, take it for what it's worth, but if it weren't for my parents being here, I would leave the United States. I'm just enjoying to live in America because I'm a secret hypocrite.
There's another thing too. AP, isn't Islam supposed to be the antidote to secular liberalism?
Of course.
And yet everywhere in the whole world, even in self-proclaimed Sharia states, secular liberalism is so strong that there's no Sharia state in the world. So how, if Islam is so weak even in its own countries, how is it ever going to beat secular liberalism at all?
Because secular liberalism is too strong. It's too strong. It's taking over everything. It's a behemoth. It is.
Well, then Islam is not the antidote.
No. But you see, right? The very first answer that he gave to me there 3 years ago is pretty much the answer he gave to Patrick Bet David when he asked him, why do you live here? Why don't you move to an Islamic country?
And yet since then, the U.S. has left Afghanistan.
Yeah.
He could go. He would have a great time there. He could join in the stonings and the amputations and the whole deal. He would love it.
And we already went through this, Daniel. We already went through this. I already pointed out to you that this does not make sense because any Muslim country is more Islamic than America. And he then listed his next excuse, which is, oh, you know, those countries don't give me citizenship. Well, great, fantastic.
Why not? Does he have a criminal record or something?
I don't know, but
why wouldn't they?
You probably can move to some Muslim country and live there for a while and probably get your citizenship. And
yeah, sure. There are Americans living in the Islamic Republic of Iran. They're interviewed on Press TV fairly often, and they trot them out to show how great Sharia is and how terrible America is. And they're Americans. They live in Tehran or elsewhere in the country. They actually have a very privileged position because of their propaganda value. Daniel Haqiqatjou could join one of the. I mean, I guess he doesn't want to go to the Shiite state, even though it's his ancestral homeland. So, but I'm sure that the Sunnis would be thrilled in Afghanistan or Pakistan or Somalia, any number of places he could go and live under Sharia and be the poster boy for Sharia. The American
Somalia would be great
who went to live under Sharia because he loves it so much.
Somalia would be fantastic. I think I recommend it for him to go there and to live there.
There again, Mogadishu probably has very low rents.
Yeah. Dirt cheap. You can just I can organize a fundraiser for $500. You can probably get a good house there.
Absolutely, yeah.
and live there. So when Patrick Bet David asked him, "Why do you live here? Why don't you move?" I feel like an honest Daniel Haqiqatjou should then have said, well, because my parents are here and I want to take care of my parents, not because there is no proper Islamic country, because we already went through that, Daniel. That's obviously not the reason. But I suspect if we keep pushing him, he will come up with the next excuse. And the next excuse will probably be because there are no good restaurants in Muslim countries, and there's no good food. There's no air. There are no I don't know. There are no gay bars and stuff like that. So I don't know, something like that. I don't know. I'm not sure what he's going to come up with.
Yep.
Gordon Bulldozer said, I suggest James Lindsay because he both against the woke stuff and far right stuff. He also is the most knowledgeable person I know regarding both. Yeah, I don't know anything about him, but I take your word for it, and I believe with my heart. Mosh Cohen said, not apologizing. I'm saying that we can't really afford to lose Azerbaijan at the moment. I don't like it at all, but we know there's a war on the way. Yeah.
I appreciate your passion, I've never been a fan of realpolitik, which is what this idea is. The idea that you have to make sometimes you have to make alliances with entities that are evil in order to bring about a greater good. On the other hand, I understand it. The United States allied with Stalin to beat Hitler. I don't like Stalin either, and I don't think that was a good idea. But arguably, if it's between allying with Stalin and beating Hitler, well, I see the problem.
Yeah.
And so, I'm granting you your point, but I'm still not. I don't know. Maybe if they were more even-handed and helped Armenia out a little bit in view of the tremendous human rights catastrophe that has been unfolding there over the last few months, that would make a difference.
But what do you mean, Robert? I clearly heard during the podcast on Patrick Bet David's show from Daniel Haqiqatjou that you are in support of all the American war on Iraq and of all the things that America was involved in.
Yeah, he's just lying again. I've been doing Jihad Watch at jihadwatch.org for 20 years now, and this is actually around the time that I started it. But when I did start it, one of the things that I did was get an article from March 2003 that was in a print magazine. And it was online briefly, but then the print magazine folded. I don't even remember the name of it, but I put the article on Jihad Watch, and it's been there ever since for 20 years. There has been the first article on Jihad Watch from March 2003 says, it's not a good idea to go into Iraq, and we're never going to make it a secular democracy. And so the idea that I am in favor of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan is refuted right from the beginning. You can find in the Jihad Watch archives numerous articles over the years while we were in Iraq and Afghanistan saying we should get out. This is crazy. This is wrongheaded. It's being conducted wrongly. And I was never in favor of those wars. So the people who claim otherwise, they're just lying. And of course, since Daniel Haqiqatjou is such an incredible liar, then it's not surprising he would say that.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to believe you here, because obviously if Daniel Haqiqatjou says otherwise, then who am I supposed to believe about you, him or you?
Exactly.
All right. With that said, I think we have come to the end of this live stream, which is famously long, almost 3 hours.
We're proud of that.
And anything else you want to say, Robert, before we leave?
I don't think so. I think I've said everything I could possibly say. I'm not even going to say a word tomorrow because I've said it all tonight.
Fantastic. Fantastic. This was a good stream. Lots of stuff cleared, but the issue is that to the Muslim apologists, none of this matters. They will just say whatever they want to say anyway.
That's right. They always do.
They always do that. Sick.
You're sick. You're sick.
Okay, I need some new sounds on here. Thanks everybody for joining, and thanks everybody for watching. Have a fantastic day, and as always, do what my dear friend Sajid Lipham wants you to do. Listen to him. He has the answers.
Stay away from Islam. Stay away from Islam.